Are you searching for the best in online black radio? Then go to blacktalkradionetwork.com, helping you filter through the noise. Real talk, black talk.
Is racism hurting you? On issues of race, are you unable to speak, think, and act with clarity and confidence? Are you tired of laughing when nothing is funny, smiling when you are not happy, agreeing when you really disagree? At counterracism.com, you can learn specific strategies and techniques to counter the behaviors of the people who practice racism in all areas of activity, using words correctly, following counter-racist logic, even counter-racist science projects designed to reveal what racism is, how it works, and how to counter it. The open-source code writing format allows you to pick and choose from a variety of counter-racist suggestions so you can produce the code that works for you. Stop by counterracism.com today and help replace racism with justice.
That's counter-racism.com.
Real problem is this, James. 2 decades, there will be 7 billion human beings on this planet. Most of them brown, yellow, or black. All of them hungry. All of them determined to love. They'll swarm out of their breeding grounds into Europe and North America. Hence Vietnam. An all-out effort there will give us control of South Asia for decades to come. And with proper planning, we can reduce the population to 550 million by the end of the century. I know. I've seen the data.
We sound rather like gods reading the Doomsday Book, don't we?
Well, someone has to do it. Not only will the nations affected be better off, but the techniques developed there can be used to reduce our own excess population. Blacks, Puerto Ricans, Mexican Americans, poverty-prone whites, and so forth.
Context of White Supremacy, Gus T Renegade, in for another program to share constructive information on the system of white supremacy. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the program. I hope it is a constructive investment of your time and energy. If you are not getting great information that you can use, help improve your understanding of the problems we face because of white people worldwide. If you're not getting that sort of information, please do something else with your time. We do not want black people wasting time. We have too many problems. The situation that we face because of white people is far too grave. We will be back, I guess, depending on where you are listening to this program, either, well, I'll just say Wednesday. There we go, Wednesday, September 14th. We will be back next broadcast in May of this year. We did the program on the incorrectness of helping white people. My suggestion that black people, non-white people worldwide, to the extent that you can, do everything possible not to help white people. We did that discussion in May. Some listeners got upset, said that they were going to continue to help white people. I think that's kind of poking at our conditioning. White people have kind of set things up for us to be their John Coffey and Hattie McDaniel, to just pamper and look after them. The help was number one at the movies, I think, for 3 weeks in the area of the world known as the U.S. We have a listener, investor actually, in the UK. He posted on the C.O.W.S Facebook page about he helped a white person, and the story ended Of course, with a non-white person, a black person being mistreated. Of course. He will be coming on the program this Wednesday to discuss what happened and just, to further advise folks helping white people is just not the logical, correct thing to do under a system of white terrorism. That'll be the next broadcast this Wednesday, September 14th. Program time will be 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, and 2 p.m. Pacific on helping white folks. This will be the UK edition, Context of White Supremacy. As for this broadcast, as I said, I'm really dedicated to making an effort to have black people on the program and really people worldwide, white and non-white, on the program at all times to try to get a better understanding of white supremacy as a global system, a global problem, and especially to get black people on. I think we really need to do more work in terms of networking. I think we had someone, like I said, folks saying that the cows, you all don't have people on from different parts of the world. You all don't focus on issues outside of the U.S. We had a black male on from the area of the world known as France this past Sunday. Black male will be joining us from the UK this Wednesday. Our guest for today's broadcast, unfortunate circumstances brought us together, but I'm thankful that he's here. I had some listeners. They posted this on my Facebook page about a black male in the area of the world known as South Korea being abused. He was attempting to use public transportation, just catching the bus, and just abused. The bus driver, so-called Korean, refused to allow him on the bus. Just really degrading experience. And the more I researched, the black male, the victim in this case, was saying that this is pretty common in terms of just being abused and mistreated because he is a black male in this area of the world. And I thought it would be great to have him on the program to get a better understanding of white people's greatest export in the known universe, anti-blackness, white supremacy. Joining us live from the area of the world known as South Korea. A real pleasure to have him on the program. Our guest, Mr. Sintah Khalid. Sorry, I'm messing up the name. The names has been a challenge. We'll try one more time. Sintah Khalid. Did I get it correct?
Close enough. Good. It's good enough.
Can we get the correct pronunciation, please?
Sintah Khalid, but it's, you don't have the KH is sort of like the Arabic Khalid, but it's okay.
Okay. How would you like to be referenced for the broadcast? We can do Mr. Khalid or whatever you think would be best.
You can just call me Sintah. We can be pretty formal.
Okay.
And pretty informal. Pretty informal. I mean, we don't have to be formal about this.
Okay. Thank you again, Sintah, for taking some time out of your schedule to join us. Actually, for you, I guess this would be Tuesday afternoon for you. So thank you for sharing a bit of your afternoon with us.
Yeah, no problem.
Let's see. Before we get started, any background information you would like to share with our audience? Anything you think it would be important for them to know about you before we begin?
I've been teaching here off and on in South Korea as a English teacher, if that's what you call it. I don't know what it really is. It's sort of like a joke being a mascot or something like that. That's what I would actually really call it. I did this after a friend told me about it. And he was like, oh, yeah, you should go to Korea. Because I was living in Hawaii at the time. And I lived in a Korean neighborhood. And even in the United States, in Hawaii, in this neighborhood, I was sort of mistreated by Koreans walking into their stores or any one of their establishments. And he was studying Korean at the time, and he had this sort of affinity towards Koreans and the language, so he sort of admonished me to travel to Korea to do this teaching English. And so this is how I came to be here. Sort of a mistake, but, each experience, negative or positive, is sort of a learning experience. So I've gained a lot from the experience, regardless if it was negative, there was a positive outcome.
Okay, I dig. Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you. If you had more you wanted to share, please.
Oh, no, that's finished. That's just like, I was finished with my sort of introduction.
Okay. I dig that. Always look for the lessons, even when being victimized. Try to find the lessons. So hopefully you can make sure that that does not happen again. Yeah, we will get into what happened with the bus incident and your treatment in that area of the world. Before I begin this program, the context of white supremacy, I have unfortunately concluded that we are in a global system of white supremacy racism. I use those two terms as synonyms, and I have the same definition for both terms. The definition I use is as follows: a global people who classify themselves as white and are dedicated to abusing and or subjugating everyone in the known universe whom they classify as not white. Do you believe that such a system exists, and do you think that's an accurate definition?
I would say it's a pretty accurate definition based on my experience.
Right on. We can proceed. And you are a black male,
right.
just for folks who haven't seen you, black male, correct?
Yes, I'm a black male.
Gotcha. Make sure that's clear.
I hope so. I'll look at the mirror later on. Maybe I'll turn the light.
We hope not. We hope not.
All right. Maybe I can get on the bus.
Man. I mean, this is really despicable. I mean, 2011, we were just talking about, black people being horrifically abused in Mississippi and Alabama 50, 60 years ago, trying to ride the bus, and you are, halfway around the world in South Korea and having the same problem. Before we get to what happened last week with the bus, you have been in South Korea for how long now? Was it 3 years?
Off and on for 3 years. I tried to stay away from it. I ran through some sort of problem, and which sort of I had to come back. Well, I didn't have to come back, but it was probably my best option financially, based on the global economic crisis. So
many people can relate to that, I am sure. Wow, I guess because I try to ask a lot of our listeners this. Did your parents or any family members, did they talk to you about racism, white supremacy growing up? Did they talk to you about how other non-black people would treat you? Any of those type of dialogues in your household growing up?
Well, my father did. He would always, if I would come in speaking that, yo, daddy, jive talk, the stereotypical vernacular of the African American, he would sort of scold me about that, and he told me to, you should have command over the English language. It's not, regardless if your friends tell you that you're acting like a white person, whatever the hell that means. He said that this is the only way to actually move up and socioeconomically by sort of not so much assimilating, just having command over the language, which is the language, which is English, and this is the way it's supposed to be spoken properly. So, when I hear other people say, "Oh, you're speaking like a black person" or something like that, that's just saying that someone speaks improper English. And there's many people all over America, white, black, Hispanic, they speak improper English. So it's not really talking white, even though the English language comes from Europe. But this was my first language. So anyway. So my father, he was pretty much the one who sort of influenced me to be more aware of my surroundings and the white imperialist structure that sort of surrounds me daily. My mother, on the other hand, she's a school teacher. She has many white friends. I recall times coming home from school, and we had moved to the suburbs, and in the suburbs, the ratio between black and white, the whites pretty much dominates the population school. So, you know, I'd get called a nigger or something like that. I was pretty upset. I'd get in fights, and my mother would be like, well, you cannot just physically react to people calling you just these names because it's just a word. You should call them scum and walk away. So I'm thinking to myself, well, if I call them scum and walk away, they're going to continue to call me this word, verbally abuse me, and probably physically abuse me because they think that I'm weak. So I noticed that if I was physically abusive, I'm trying to defend myself amongst, a school that's populated with just white people. There's only a few black people. You know, if I physically reacted to this verbal aggression, then I noticed that they would not call me a nigger anymore because they know that there's a consequence behind it. So I felt that I was justified in reacting that way when I was in high school. But within my family, they're too sort of enveloped into the American culture, that sort of white bread society. I guess we can talk about it further. I call the African American, and if people get offended, that's fine. I call the African American the assimilated white man. They want to be the honorary white person. So when they first came over to from Africa, when the slave ships came over from Africa and they took the African from their home, they were called nigger, or a variation of that. And the nigger actually, to me, indicates like a cow or like some sort of livestock. And so they weren't even considered people. So the nigger was the animal. And so after they abolished slavery, the nigger became a free animal. And so the nigger saw what the white man was getting, like he had acres of land, he had houses, he owned property, and then, you know, the nigger, he was like, I just want to give it like Master got it, you know? And so he wanted to assimilate himself to become what Master was. And so I believe that the black man in America has fought so hard, and all they have ever gotten was a title, and that was African American. And so the African American is like almost attaching the African to America. So it's like the African is still attached to the slave master. That's what an African American actually means to me. And so now the Negro is so angry within the American society that they're even trying harder to even cut out the African. They don't even want to be African anymore. They want to be just American. They just want to be white. They want America is a derivative of Amerigo Vespucci, a known murderer, a rapist, a colonizer. And so this is the problem with African American. So I'd rather actually be called a nigger before the African American, because I don't want to have any attachments to imperialism. I don't want to have any attachments to enslavement of my own people, or the psychological enslavement of my own people. It's sort of an insult. So please, white people out there, don't be politically correct. If you want to call me a nigger, please go ahead and call me that. And that was my sort of tirade right there.
Black male, back of the bus, co-founder of the C.O.W.S, he used to say that regularly. I would much rather have white people keep it real and be honest. Just go back to calling us nigger every day, 50,000 times a day, so that all of us can be very clear about what's going on worldwide. Don't lie and try to smile.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, so that seems to be, unfortunately, fitting the pattern where a lot of our parents, they're victims too, and they don't have the correct information about white supremacy to pass on to their children. Although it did seem like your father was trying to help out some. Wow. Okay, so I guess you said you had some negative experiences, some mistreatment from so-called Koreans growing up in the States. Is that correct?
Not so much. I was born in Chicago, raised in Kansas City, Missouri. I traveled around the States a lot. I could never be, sort of complacent and be satisfied in one place. So I ended up traveling to Hawaii. I did my second degree in Hawaii. There's a lot of Asians in Hawaii. And actually, the Asians in Hawaii, they're like sort of mixed with the indigenous culture, the Hawaiian. and they're like Filipino, Hawaiian, and black. Or they're a variation of different Asians, but they're really brown, and they don't appreciate Caucasians very much. So the white people became the minority. They are called the haole. And I recall one time some white person was called a haole, and he got offended. He felt like he was oppressed by the word or something like that. It was sort of ridiculous. He made a big scene or something like that. Just like a lot of Caucasian people like to hop onto the struggle so they can sort of relinquish their own guilt. But yeah, sorry to get sidetracked, but yeah, I lived in a Korean neighborhood with my roommates, and I'd walk into a store, and they'd follow me around, and I recall one time I walked into a restaurant, and I was going to get some Korean food. Korean food's okay, and walked in, and I was looking at the menu, and she was like, "What do you want?" And just this really, really crass voice, and I was like, "What do you think I want? I want some Korean food. Do you think I was coming in here for a cheeseburger or something like that?" And so, all this getting shooed away, and just a lot of mistreatment. But it wasn't as bad as when I came here.
Wow. Context of white supremacy. Had you spoken with any black people who were doing teaching in Korea? Had you spoken with black folks who were residing in that area of the world to kind of know what to expect with regards to how black people are frequently mistreated in that area?
I didn't really do much research. I was just sort of ready to do something new. So I wish I would have done more research. I didn't. I thought that Koreans were a bit. They pride themselves or their country on being developed or developing, and I had no idea that there was this brazenness with racism, and it's more extreme. And at least I'll give the Koreans this: that they can tell you to your face, like what they think about you. So I know how they feel about me, as opposed to being like in Caucasians in America. They try to hide it and call you the African American. Oh, you're a part of our group. I rather than just, like I said before, rather than just call me what you feel like calling me. But when I first came out here, they told me I was going to be in the city because I didn't want to be in like the countryside or something like that. And I ended up getting on this bus, and they traveled all the way down from Seoul all the way down to this countryside. And I was pretty upset about it because I signed a contract to be in the city, where there's like more people. I know there was, more diversity there. And so I was the only foreigner there. I was the only black person there as well. And so I called up the recruiter because a lot of these teachers, they have to go through the middleman, which is the recruiter. And I complained to them, and they said, well, don't think that Koreans are racist or anything, but, a lot of the schools and a lot of the parents don't want to hire a black person. So I'm thinking to myself, well, isn't that racism? And so I got angry, and then I said, well, I'm going to report you to this and that. And, of course, I found out that we had no rights here, so reporting anything, it just gets thrown under the bus. It's like nobody really cares. And that was just my first impression. That was like day one.
Jeez.
So I've always had a bad impression from the beginning. And I have all these other friends. Like, there's a lot of people, they're like, oh, well, Koreans are so bad. I've never had this experience before, And they're like, not all Koreans are like this. And this is something that I want to sort of generalize. They come from a collectivist society. And so collectivism, they always have this we mentality. They never have the I mentality. There's no autonomy there. So, the construction of their society comes from Confucianism. But they've taken it a bit further, and it's neo-Confucianism. So Confucianism, at its root, is supposed to be some sort of harmonious community to create social order. But the Koreans took it to more of an extreme, and it's to sort of like keep them as sheep in a herd. So what one person thinks, the other person thinks. That's why they say, well, so one Korean always speaks for another Korean. So I hear I hear my own brothers saying something like this, or I hear, Caucasian people say things like this, like, oh, it's not all Koreans. You can't just generalize. Well, it's like, well, of course I can generalize because because they generate themselves. Why can't I? There might be a few of them, and it's very rare, but they still have mentality. They're still influenced by Confucianism and their sort of strict social order of community, of we. That's why, like, if you go to like a subway, they're all like, if there's a certain place in the subway, each one of them will run to that certain spot, or each one of them will crowd around a certain spot. If you ever been to a farm, you'll see the sheep herd in a certain area or a certain spot. So this is their whole mentality. It's like complete mental enslavement, but they don't realize that. They say, well, this is part of our culture, and of course, culture is a derivative of cults. So yes, it's just a cult to me.
Wow. So as soon as you get there, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just feel like I'm incriminating myself. So I'm sure one of these sellout people are probably going to post this somewhere and try to find out where I work at and say that I've been saying bad-mouthing Korean. So I guess so be it. You know, it has to be said. So anyway, but yeah, continue.
For sure. Just sharing your experience. I mean, day one, you get there and it's, well, we're not really getting down with about hiring black teachers. I mean, that's day one. So you begin teaching. How did the students, when you first started teaching there, how did the students respond to a black teacher?
Oh, man. Oh, where do I start? Well, first of all, it's just laughter, pretty much. And so I'm like the funny monkey teacher or something like that. So I think that my first day was called monkey teacher, or teacher, what's wrong with your hair? Because I first started teaching high school, their English is very subpar. It's not on point, so that's why I was there, to try to teach them, so they can have a conversation with the actual English-speaking foreigner. So even the faculty, they would snub me in the hallways and stuff like that, talk about me. They would talk about me in their own language, and I knew they were talking about me because they would say Sintah, 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 and I'm right here. I'm right next to them. I'm like, and they're laughing or whatever, and I'm like, what the hell are they saying? So I had to learn a little bit of Korean just to, catch what they were saying. And in fact, I sort of pretended like I knew Korean for a while, so I would say certain phrases to them, like, "Are you talking about me?" And they're like, "Oh, we were just saying what a great teacher you are." I was like, "Yeah, that's not what you were saying. Why couldn't you just tell me that?" I'm like, "Oh, why can't you just tell me I'm a great teacher?" Thank you. I knew they were talking bad about me. But they were doing it. Then they started to, be more quiet about it. So if I walked in, they would sort of be quiet. And I just had no idea, like, their lives are so pitiful that they have to talk about people all day long. Like I've dealt, like this year especially, I've dealt with 300, and this is no joke, 365 days of racism.
Jeez.
Every day there's something new. Every single day. And everybody's like, "Oh, why don't you just leave? Why don't you just leave?" And so I sort of embraced it, so I can totally understand the dire circumstances in which I live. So that helps me in my next journey, the understanding, and I have patience, and I have a lot of repressed anger, and so I know I have to release that anger at the perfect moment. And at that perfect moment, there won't be one wasted moment of anger. And I'm going to, release this anger constructively. So, anyway.
Wow. 365 days of racism.
That's not counting the other 2 years. Some days I wouldn't get it. Maybe add 4, maybe 600. Maybe add 400 more days to that. So 765 days.
How old were the students? How old are these children that we're talking about?
They are maybe 16, 17, 18.
Wow, that's a lot older than what I was thinking. Okay, so these are almost adults who are, making these comments and behaving this way.
Right.
Wow. Okay. So you get here, you've got 16, 17-year-old so-called Korean students calling you a monkey and, just talking bad about you. 365 days of racism. Initially, what were you doing to try to cope with this? Were you thinking, oh my God, there's no way I can deal? I mean, what were you thinking in regards to how you were going to deal with this?
It wasn't just I wasn't really aware of dealing with it. I was just like I was talking to my mom and other friends. I have a really good friend named Taru. Shout out to Taru. We converse back and forth. He's on the same level as I guess you and I are. And they sort of told me to cope with the pressure. Because if you don't finish the contract here, they sort of screw you out of some money. So I was already here. I might as well get as much money out of these people as I can. But I guess how I coped was just embracing the hatred. I just had to internalize it all. I even grew out this afro. I've never done it before in my life. I'm used to having short hair. It's sort of difficult to take care of. It's not because I don't like my hair. I love it, but it's just it's hard to take care of. So I just was like, okay, I'm just going to make these people hate me more. I want to see how much hate that these people have. I want to see how much they can hate me. And so I grew out the fro, and it's just like, oh, your hair is so disgusting. Ugh. Like, they're laughing, they're spitting, they're calling me, the word for trash is shregi in Korean, and I'm getting shregi. I'm getting a factory. Oh, he works in a factory, because they can't pronounce their F's very well, so they say factory. You work in a factory, and they're covering their mouth because my skin is brown, I must smell bad. And usually because I'm mixed. I'm like, my father's Egyptian. He's got some black mixed with him, with some Arab, and then whatever. So my hair is not growing out, they might think I'm from Saudi Arabia. They might think that I'm from India. So they would think I'm from somewhere in Southeast Asia, and these are the main people who are doing these manufacturing jobs, such as working in factories. And there's a stereotype with Koreans that they think that these people smell bad. And so I automatically smell bad. I could have taken 10 showers that day and sprayed like cool water cologne all over my body. And I still smell like shit to them. Just because maybe my skin color resembles that same color to them. I don't know. But even Koreans, they're brown. So they originally, if you go to like one of their museums, they're brown themselves. Their original inhabitants before they were colonized by the Japanese and colonized, well, I can say recolonized by the Americans, but they think the Americans are their heroes, and the other half is the North, which is sort of run or sort of an irredenta or a suzerain. They're sort of like a de facto government. I don't care what they say about Kim Jong-il, like he runs everything. China actually dictates policies up in the North, so their country is split, and the United States and China, it's not in their best interest to let the Koreans reunite. But so anyway, on the southern half, this is what has transpired. So they're sort of influenced by American television, and so Eurocentrism is sort of advertised to them.
Wow. Now, I have met, I'm in Washington State, and they have a significant so-called Asian population. I've been in contact with quite a few so-called Koreans, and they are less confused about white supremacy. And we talked extensively about how white identified that area of the world, South Korea, is becoming because white people, they're really pushing the Christianity, the military bases are there, the films and television, and the people that I know who are from that area, they've just said that it's really, really bad in terms of just wanting to, same thing you were saying about African Americans and just wanting to be white. Just if you could touch on that, if you've seen that, and especially the impact that the Christian religion is having on this process, if you can comment on that.
Right. Yeah, they've sort of destroyed their own culture, and I actually wonder what it would have been like if I came here before they had this sort of nouveau riche mentality, this new money, because money, I guess, changes people. I think the Korean was actually maybe a more humble person before they were sort of influenced by white supremacy. But how they act is weird. So I see on TV they have like so basically when I say white supremacy is advertised, or it's Edward Bernays, right? Edward Bernays, the founder of public relations. He was actually Sigmund Freud's nephew, so he's the one that created the beautiful advertisements, the feel-good advertisements. That's why people go buy McDonald's and KFC, buy clothing items, right? Anyway, so this is the same way that being Caucasian or the Eurocentric standard of beauty is advertised through this sort of mechanism of Bernaysian fantasy. So if you want to feel good, if you want to look good, if you feel depressed, and bleach your skin white and dye your hair blonde, and you'll feel good about yourself. You'll feel beautiful. And on the other hand, juxtaposed with being black, it's sort of if to make your, like, if you're disgusting and if you're nasty, if you smell bad and you're black, this is what they advertise on the Korean television: the starving black person in Africa, and all black people are naked in Africa, and the so-called African American in America is a thug, and he's poor too, living in the slums, and he's using their welfare system, and he's a slave. And I've even heard my own students, my university students, say this to myself, and I talk to them frequently about racism and their sort of Eurocentric standard of beauty, and because they all accept it. They won't even get in the sun, for Christ's sake. It's sunny outside, and I think that human beings are sort of like plants. We need sort of photosynthesis to allow our skin to replenish and be healthy. And this is why if you stay out of the sun, you can see all the blemishes and nasty sort of spider veins in your legs. And the Korean walks around when it's not even raining with an umbrella on. And they always ask me, "Aren't you going to wear some sunscreen?" It's like, no, I just get darker, and I appreciate that. I even have a Caucasian friend who I work with. He was even telling me, he's like, I appreciate a tan. It's like, why are you guys, why do you guys want to be so pale? He's like, even Caucasian people don't want to be that pale. They want to be really pale, like Edward the Vampire or something like that. I don't know if you're familiar with that that film. Wow. But yeah.
Wow. Fascinating. Have you? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and they, like I said, they even have the skin bleaching cream, and they shape their nose. The surgery is a big deal out here. They shape their nose to have this sort of pointy Caucasian nose or something like that. They get eye surgery to have the double eyelid because they think that they're I don't want to say slanty because it sounds sort of ignorant, but the small eyelid, they don't appreciate that, because they want to look like Marilyn Monroe or Madonna, or I don't know who they think is pretty anymore. But yeah.
Wow.
And it's all over Asia, because I've traveled throughout Asia. I remember being in Thailand. I stayed there for quite some time, and I was trying to get some lotion for my skin. And so I'm trying to grab all this lotion. It's just like, oh, for skin whitening. I was like, where is the lotion? He said, oh, this is the lotion. Don't you want to have beautiful skin? I was like, I have beautiful skin. I just need to get the ashy stuff off my skin,
Wow. Context of white supremacy. We were discussing this before the program, and I just for the contrast, can you share with our listeners how you think you would be treated if you had went there and you were white?
If I would have came to Korea as a white person, trying to imagine, trying to have like a Harry Potter make me a white person. Here we go. Well, I think that because I think that they give all foreigners weird looks, and so I think a lot of Caucasian people think that it's because they're being discriminated. It's not. I think that Koreans discriminate against everybody because they have this quote-unquote homogenous society, which is sort of a falsehood that they've been talking to their propaganda machine. But they look at them more as a fascination, like, wow, I'm really seeing a movie star. Wow, wow. And they even say wow. Like when I walk by, it's like, argh, like they have this grunting noise, argh, and it sounds just like that. Or like they'll suck their teeth at me, like, like it's like you don't belong here or something like that. Because I looked it up. What the sucking your teeth means? It means like you're not welcome here. And I tried to ask another Korean this, and they're like, oh no, it's just because we have food in our teeth. That's like, well, it's like this person wasn't eating anything. So what do you mean?
Wow.
So yeah, if I was white, they would have been more fascinated. I would have had a better job. I wouldn't have been in like these rural areas because they send the black people away from the population. So white people usually, or people don't want to work in the rural area because it's boring. They don't want to work in the cornfields. So if the countryside school doesn't get a foreign teacher that's white, I'm like, fine. We'll take the nigger. Come on, we'll take them. So they'll take them, take us, and then we get treated like garbage because that's the only exposure that they ever had of black people or brown people for that matter. So yeah, I would have got treated a lot better. But even you, like I said, you even have these black people. I had this friend, maybe he's listening, maybe he'll hear this. I remember he complained to me. He was like, yeah, man, every day they're calling me nigger teacher, right? I'm like, what the hell? Really? They're calling you nigger teacher? I was like, man, you should quit. He's like, what? I can't quit. That means I'm a quitter. I was like, well, you got to do something. You can't just be called nigger teacher every day. He got called nigger teacher every day. And then he ended up marrying this Korean woman.
Oh.
Like, he couldn't leave here. He's still here. He doesn't want to leave here. God bless his soul, but he won't even leave. He's from South Africa, a black South African. Like, there's a distinction between the color and black, but I don't know. But anyway, yeah. So he hates South Africa. I think he wants to live in Korea for the rest of his life, and I think that he married a Korean girl. He gets F1 visa. F1 visa is like where you don't have to fill out all the complicated paperwork to get a visa out here. So he marries this Korean girl so he can stay here forever, to be called a nigger forever, and be spit on forever.
Man. Oh, please continue.
I just like I don't understand. It's like he's blinded, or a lot of them they're blinded. They don't want to see it. They can't see it. They just want to say, well, I'm staying here so I can help the Korean people. I was like, what do you mean help the Korean people? So I get mad and angry about it. I was like, what do you mean help the Korean people? You need to start helping your own people. We have problems. I'm tired of black males talking about they need to help other people. Like the Koreans themselves, they're slaves of other people. Black people are so sort of psychologically enslaved that they want to be slaves of other slaves. You can't even liberate yourself from other slaves. Oh, them Koreans, they's gonna give us the jobs too. So the Korean is sort of like their master as well, because the Korean is sort of like the sort of neo-Asian white person. Like Chinese, and I don't know about the Japanese so much, but the Chinese and the Koreans, they are like sort of the white people of Asia. And this is how they treat us. And even, like I said, it's even more blatant than what I would experience in the United States. But they still come here. And I'm sorry if I'm going off on a tirade. Like I said, everything that I'm saying is sort of extemporaneous. I didn't have any really, I didn't write down any talking points or anything like that. I've been sort of busy.
Understood. Just that anti-blackness worldwide, I think, and that's why I make the distinction between black people and non-white people who are not black, because I think they are very clear in making that distinction that, hey, we might not be white, but we are definitely not with you niggers. They make that distinction very clear.
Yeah.
I mean, you talked about this black male. He's from the area of the world known as South Africa, and he married a Korean female. I was going to ask about that because that just seems like you would be setting yourself up for incredible. I mean, it would intensify the mistreatment. I would think that, to have a black male coming after one of our females, like, oh my gosh, like, has he, I mean, is that correct? Has he been mistreated about that, or am I off base here?
I don't really speak to him that often anymore because I try to hide myself from, when I came back, I was so ashamed about coming back here. I felt so shamed, and I didn't want people to know I was here because it's something that I don't want to do. It's something that I don't want to be involved in, and I wanted to move on from my life. So, so I don't talk to him often, but I know that if a Korean and any foreigner, but if a Korean and a black foreigner, they're walking down the street, oh my, boy, they get, it's like intensified racism. It's like they're taking our women. The parents hate it. The parents tell their daughters or whatever that they're going to disown them, and it's just bizarre. And I don't know if I could do that. I can't walk down the street and because just by myself I deal with it. So if I'm with a Korean girlfriend, I don't feel like I want to be hazed all the time. And even on her part, I don't want her to be hazed as well because it's just like a double time,
Double whammy. Oh man.
Yeah, double whammy. He hates you and.
Wow.
And I even heard like the mixed race baby back in the day. They used to. A friend of mine told me that they used to kill the mixed baby, the mixed Korean baby, because it's sort of like tainted. It's not a Korean. It's an abomination. Like the movie 300, where they would probably throw the baby off the cliff because it wasn't good enough to be a part of the who are those guys in 300? Spartans, the Spartans. Sorry, yeah, the Spartans.
Wow.
Anyway, sorry to make movie references.
No worries. I have seen 300. The blatant white supremacy and a lot of homoeroticism in that film. Yeah.
Right.
This is. I read you posted a lot of great links on your Facebook page about the bus incident specifically, and I know the one link. This is on the Korea Herald, folks. If they want to check it out, the title of the report: Masan bus driver refuses black passenger. And I scrolled down a little bit through the report, and they were quoting you, where you said that same thing that you shared with us, that when you arrived in Korea that you had experienced a lot of racism. And it says specifically that you said that you experienced racism in, I guess this city is Yeju, but that it was much worse in Masan. And I'm just trying to understand if you can help us get a better idea of how much worse, and some specific examples of things that were happening that intensified this racism in Masan.
Well, I think that the author of the article, I think he misinterpreted what I said. My first year was in Yeoju, which is I did 1 year, and then that's like completely countryside. It was the only foreigner. I actually had to like sort of trick my friend. He's another black male. I had to trick my friend into coming down there. I told him, yeah, it's a great place, man. It's a great place to be, blah, 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 blah. And so he actually signed a contract so I wouldn't be the only, foreigner there, much less the only black person there. And the other one was like nearer to Seoul. It's in like called Shihong, and it's about 40 minutes outside of Seoul. So it's a bigger city. There's more, I guess the Koreans get a little bit more exposure to different cultures. But I still got the racism. But I can't explain why it's more racist than Masan, but it did intensify. In fact, all of the other teachers that were working in that area, they were all Caucasian, and there was nobody that I could sort of vent to because I'm used to being. I had a good group of friends in the Seoul area who could empathize with my situation because they dealt with the same thing. But as I am trying to vent these Caucasian people about my situation, they had no clue what I was talking about. Like, well, we deal with racism too. Another, hopping onto the struggle, and like, it's like, well, I think that they don't deal with it in the extreme sense where they are looked at in like complete and utter disgust. So there was no use talking to them. That's why I had to cut off all communication with them. That's why I just started to stick with myself. So yeah, it's just been a sort of lonely time here, but it's okay. I'm good. But I can't really, like your initial question, sorry to digress, but yeah, your initial question, I have no clue why it was more intense, but maybe that was the reason, because there aren't any black people there. Not one. And when I I was out the other evening in this other place called Busan, and there's racism here as well, but it's not as much because it's sort of there's more foreigners here. But I'm out, and some guy, and I'm sure he might be listening to this program, but I have to expose the people I need to expose while I can. So he comes up to me, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you're this guy, you're that guy from the newspaper." I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh yeah." Then he's like, "Oh well, I'm one of the hottest rappers in the Seoul area," as if I was like, as if I care. I was like, I thought we were going to have a discussion about the problems that we face in South Korea as black males. And he's from Canada, and he's trying to promote his new CD or something like that. And I was like, I don't give a shit. I'm sorry if this is going to be censored. Do you mind that word shit? But anyway, I don't care about your album or anything like that. But it seemed like all he was trying to do was, it's just the same as the African American, North American, African American, whatever you want to call them. It's just the same. Trying to promote his album, and he's like, oh yeah, like we're trying to have a serious conversation, but all you think that you can bring up is your shitty rap album, And then later on that night, I meet this military guy. He's from, I don't know, he's a Marine or something like that, and we were talking about NATO. He's like, Gaddafi, he killed his own people, and NATO was good. And I was like, do you understand what Gaddafi was trying to do, and why the imperialists tried to, depose him? And I was trying to explain that, Gaddafi was trying to, get out of the sort of the attachment to the Western fractional reserve banking system and create an African investment bank, such as a black Goldman Sachs, an African Goldman Sachs, or an African Citibank. And he was also trying to create an African central bank. And he was in the process of doing that with the help of other African Union affiliates. He was also trying to create an African monetary fund, which was actually built to keep black people out of debt from the Western world, because this is how they have control over African resources. So this is why black African countries are sort of underdeveloped, because their resources are the debt or the collateral for all the loans they've taken out for the financial institutions to build infrastructure within their country. But yeah, he didn't understand it. I was like, look at you. I'm sorry to go on the tirade, but I have to explain that part. So I'm explaining this to him, and it just went right through his one ear and out the other. And I was like, look at you, man. You're not an African American. You're an African. He's like, no, I heard my friend, she went to Africa, and the Africans hate us. And I was like, that's because you call yourself an American. You hate yourself, so why shouldn't they hate you? You know what I mean? And so I was like, look at your face, look at your big lips, look at your big nose, look at your hair, look at your coarse hair. I was like, you're trying to be American, but you're never going to be an American. You're always going to be second class. You're never going to be there. And this is the problem that I've faced in trying to encounter some of these people in Korea and other places in the world who are black. They don't understand themselves enough.
Context.
Please
oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying, please cut me off if I keep going too far.
Oh, okay.
I know you're working on a short amount of time, maybe.
Context of white supremacy. That is a global problem when you are confused about racism, white supremacy. I think Dr. Kanban says it all the time. Black people, very serious about not being very serious. That is exactly what the racist white supremacists want to see from their victims. I guess before I share with listeners, or you share with listeners, what happened specifically with the bus incident most recently that got a lot more attention, how big exactly is the city of Milan? Like, how many people are we talking about? Or, excuse me, did I say I think I said the name incorrectly. How big? Masan, yes. How large is this city?
It's quite small. They have, it's like a suburb of Busan, which is a port city, and most people, it's so boring that people just probably travel. Most people travel to Busan. Yeah, it's pretty small.
Is it under 50,000 people?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I never really looked into it, but I know it was smaller than most cities. Like the Koreans would call it a countryside town, something like
that. Okay. The bus incident now, this happened just a few weeks ago, and I'm glad now we have some context so people know this is not an isolated incident. This is not just, you're just, blowing this out of proportion. You had one bad incident. That, no, as you said, this is everyday, consistent pattern of just being mistreated because you're black. What happened specifically with the incident on the bus just a few days back?
Well, I was traveling to another city because, of course, I have to get out of Masan when I can. But there was an incident prior to the incident with me. There was this, there's a video that surfaced, and it was, all over the news. It went viral in Korea on YouTube of this black male. I think he was from the United States, and he is physically attacking this Korean man. And so this is projected on TV. So they didn't even say he was from America. They didn't say he's from anywhere. They just said black man assaults Korean, and we only get a part of it. And so since then, a lot of Koreans have generalized black people, and they think all black people are like this. They think all black people get on buses and say, the guy was an idiot, actually. He's like, the stereotypical African American, like, he's like, I guess the quote that everybody knows him saying is, do you see these rocks? And he's like, do you see these rocks? To this guy. And so this is probably what ruined it for more black people out here who are trying to come here and teach for some reason. And so anyway, back to the story. So I get on the bus, or I try to get on the bus, and before I took one step, and he asked me where I'm from. And then I told him, I didn't really tell him where I was from. I just told him, I'm going somewhere in Masan. I'm going to the bus terminal, which is where I was going. And he's like, grunts at me. And he points at me. He says, nagaâ. And then he shuts the door in my face and drives off. So nagaâ means get out of here. And that's sort of, I'm sure, and then I hear a lot of other Koreans on the bus are sort of chuckling, and I'm not sure why, if they're chuckling because the word nagaâ was used in the video, because why the black man previous to my incident he was angry because he thought that the Korean called him a nigger, so nagaâ, nigger, whatever it is, but anyway, I don't know the problem with I don't know the exact story with the previous incident prior to mine. But, I think that's what it was from.
Wow. There's several reports online, if you want to check. I just told you one in the Korea Herald, where they have a report. You also posted, this is from a blog. Apparently there's a writer, he says he's also in South Korea. And I just want to read some of this report. And I think it gives you some of the flavor of what our guest Sintah has had to experience in this area of the world. This post, having seen these rocks, Korea reacts. That's the name of the post, and I think that's a reference to what you just touched on about the previous incident with the black male on the bus. He writes, this is from his blog post, he writes, in response to having seen the rocks of the African American English teacher who recently went berserk on a bus, one Korean bus driver made it clear that Korea has enough rocks already, and that buses are no place for rock talk anyhow. The Korea Herald has more on Korea's unofficial reaction to having seen these rocks. When Sintah Khalid tried to board the 110 bus on September 2nd at around 10:30 p.m. in Masan, the bus driver demanded to know where he was from before ordering him off the bus. They're quoting you. He begins shooing me with his hands in anger and says, "Get off," in Korean, nagaâ. And I hear people chuckle, explained Khalid. Then I step off and he shuts the door and drives off. Khalid suggested the refusal might have been connected to an incident on a bus last week in which a black man verbally and physically attacked a Korean man who had offended him. Khalid said he was leaving in a month because his contract was finished and that he wouldn't return because of the racism he has faced here, adding that many of his black friends had also received abuse. He's leaving permanently? That's a huge victory for the bus driver and other Koreans who don't like having foreigners here. Khalid shares more. I even had a woman spit on me once, he said. People cover their mouths up because they think I smell bad. I get called factory trash. Well, the part about smelling bad might have some validity. A week or so ago, I posted a study from the New York Times showing that people with wet earwax, e.g. Africans and Europeans, generally sweat more than dry earwax populations like East Asians and thus tend to have more body odor. And just to be a smart ass, people don't cover their mouths if something smells bad. They plug their noses and breathe through their mouths. This is on the blog viakorea.wordpress.com. And I mean, this sort of, in my opinion, just flagrant racism. I think the author of this post might be a white person. You read this post. Did you have any thoughts on what this person had to say?
It's just some of the same old things I've always heard. I actually commented on a couple of forums about the situation, and I get the same response from many Caucasian people. So a lot of them, they just don't even care. They don't think it's funny. But it's not shocking to me. But I just wanted to make other people aware of that situation.
Oh. I saw a different report where...
Wait,
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, okay. No, please continue.
I was just curious. I read a different report where the, so-called Koreans who are in charge said that they were going to deal with this matter. They were going to reprimand the bus driver or speak to him about his conduct. To your knowledge, has any of this happened?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah,
I had a lot of other friends and people who are other supporters who I've sort of encouraged to call this number if you actually feel or share my pain. But I don't know if anything has been done. I haven't even called the bus station or the city hall, Cheongwon City Hall. I haven't had time. Plus, I mentioned to you that I sort of discarded using a mobile device. And but I am in contact with I am going to be in contact, with the human rights organization in Korea. But I don't think anything is going to be done. It's funny that the whole incident with the guy on the bus, the "You See These Rocks" guy, that was a big deal. But the after effects, the consequences, the racial consequences that come along with it, those things are not going to be addressed because Koreans want to hide that stuff. They want to think that their culture is great, and they're not like this. It's just a complete another lie. But yeah, I don't believe anything is going to be done. But I'm trying my hardest. This is why I've been in contact with other media outlets. You've contacted me if I agree to do this broadcast, and I appreciate it. But I'm going to try my best. I have 3 more weeks out here, so I'm going to try my best before I leave to get this story exposed as much as possible.
Yeah, spread the word. Let folks know. I think it's very important. In order to replace white supremacy with justice, all forms of anti-blackness need to be completely eradicated. It needs to be pointed out to make people aware of what a disgrace it is, the hostility that black people face worldwide, and not just from white people. Everyone, I think, is conditioned to have that total disregard for black people. Even other black people are trained and conditioned to just have that total disregard for black people. I also wanted to make sure I let listeners know if you have any questions, if you want to dial in, it's *8 on the TalkShoe line, free HD line. It's *6, and we'll definitely take questions if you want an opportunity to speak with someone in South Korea, see their views on racism, white supremacy. Get a hand up, and we'll make it happen. What is the number that can be dialed? Because I can make free phone calls to South Korea. That's pretty easy if you just need people to call to support. Do you have that number on hand to give out?
I sure do. Which number? The Changwon City Hall or the Human Rights Organization?
Any information, you can give us both, really. Whatever you think would be most helpful. You can tell us which numbers you have, and if we call the number for the human rights, what that will do, and the other number that you have, you can give that out. Just let us know what would be helpful and what we can do if people have the ability to make that phone call.
Okay, I'll look for it real quick.
Okay. Let's see.
But you can continue. I'll let you know when
Okay, I'll make sure we get that in before the program wraps up, because, like I said, I can make phone calls over there. I'm sure some of our other listeners have that ability as well, and just to let them know that we are aware and that anti-blackness, as I said, should be combated worldwide. I do see one person on the phone line who has a question. I can get them really quick. The person who dialed in on TalkShoe with the hand up, guest 11. If you have a question for our guest, your line should be open.
Yes. Good morning, good evening to depending on what part of the world you're in. My question is, I think you mentioned it for a bit. You spoke to one black service member that was over there. The question would be, does the average soldier who's stationed in Korea experience what you're describing? And I heard you say something about being in the big cities where it's more non-Koreans, the people a little bit more maybe tolerant than maybe out in the outskirts of the areas where you were working.
Can you be more specific? Experience? Are you saying soldiers?
Black
if they
soldiers,
experience,
they're stationed in Korea. Do you think they're experiencing the any of the racism that you experienced or anti-black that you experienced? I've been to Korea back in, I think, 86, and I didn't see it, but I was in the areas where the military bases were, and either way, I was still spending my money in their stores, so
right.
I guess that's one less reason for them to be, rude. But,
well,
I'm not sure if maybe you don't have a lot of experience with other blacks, especially black service members, but I was just curious, since it is a large military, the U.S. military over there, were they experiencing the same thing that you were experiencing?
In my opinion, well, I believe they have. I've met a couple of black servicemen, if that's what you would call them. I'm not sure, but I'm sure they experience to it a certain extent. But yeah, like you said, that they're stationed in certain areas where they just, when the soldier goes out, they go out and maybe have a couple of drinks at the bar or something like that, and go back to their barracks or whatever. But they have their own community on base. So a lot of times they have their own sort of like close-knit community around base, their friends who they've served with and whatnot. But I mean, no matter what occupation you hold or what position you have or whatever in Korea, just because no matter, I think that because you are not a Caucasian person, you are going to get treated differently. And I mean by differently in a very negative way. You're going to be degraded against, or not discriminated against. Excuse me, I'm retarded right now. Anyway.
And that makes sense.
You still there?
Mentioned this. They're watching our TV, American TV. They're hearing about what, negative things we do to ourselves. So, I think Mr. Fuller had made the comment before. What reason would another non-white person have? Why would they like black people? We don't like ourselves, and by our actions, because of racist white supremacy. But they're seeing it on TV, in our movies, our music, our videos. So, and of course, racist man wants another buffer between us and themselves, so they're not going to do anything to tell Koreans to knock it off.
Why would they like us if they see it on TV that we hate ourselves? But a lot of that is
yes.
I mean, yeah, I would ask the same question. It's sort of a rhetorical question. Why would they like us if we hate ourselves? And that's yes. Why would they like us if we hate ourselves? So I think that it's up to us to sort of change our global image, because we actually allow this sort of image to surface around the globe, and this is the way it's going to be until we change it. And this is, and I think that a lot of it does have to do with the sort of Bernaysian fantasy of wanting to be Caucasian, that sort of self-hate, and we must we must take steps, and it's not like we can do this overnight, but I think we must take steps into destroying this system, because the system is complete and utter evil. I've never seen a more evil system, because it's been going on for centuries.
Right.
I'm not sure if I answered your question specifically.
Yes, you did. And Dr. Frances Quest Walsing, hopefully you've heard of her, but she was on this program yesterday. She made a comment about a Swedish reporter asking, are black Americans aware that the things that they're doing is being seen by the entire world? And then she gave her answer to that. And basically what you just said too, we need to change our ways, but you're asking someone who's sick, who's mentally ill, because of our society, to stop doing certain things, and that's our dilemma as people. Some of us know there's a problem, but
on another note, I think that are you still going?
Yes, sir.
Hello? I'm sorry, getting some fuzz here.
Oh, we can hear you. Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Oh, he was kind of breaking up for a second there. I'm sorry. I do want to mention one thing, that black people are only concentrated, and I'm sorry to black people and African Americans, because the African American to me is sort of worse than the Caucasian, because he wants to bring us down even more, and he's a part of our group, so he easily can infiltrate. So he is the number one enemy. He's like the Benedict Arnold, and he can sneak through the front door, sneak through the back door, and I think that the problem with a lot of African Americans, they're talking about, we need to have control over our own businesses, and we need to buy here, we need to buy there, because I think you mentioned that we were buying things from people in Korea and stuff like that. But I think that regardless of that, I think that building businesses in the United States was just like the heartland of white imperialism is not going to do any justice, because you're still a part of their fractional reserve banking system. So no matter if you own a business, you really don't own that business, because the money that you profit from is only filtered in through is only filtered in through from their system. So you're actually feeding their system rather than creating your own system. So the Black American seems to not want to opt out of that system because he's too comfortable with being in the United States. That's why, it's just the greatest country in the world. Do you know any other greater country than this? We have all these freedoms. I'm like, when? Where did you see this freedom? I don't. And what Goethe says, he says, there's none so enslaved than those who actually believe that they are free. And that's the epitome of most everybody in the United States, even white people, and especially black people, because they're the slave of these people, still psychologically. And it's even worse. It's even worse than physical slavery because you can sort of train the so-called black person in America to do what he wants, do his bidding now. Instead of picking cotton, we can make him do everything. It's like they've created a monster out of us. So I think that black people should leave the United States. I'm not trying to be a Garveyite. I know it's hard for black people to leave there, but if you consider yourself an American, you're sort of like the enemy, the African American. It's like what George W. Bush said. He says, you're either with them or you're with the terrorists. So on the flip side, I say the same thing. You're either with them, the imperialists, or you're either with us or you're with the imperialists, terrorists.
Person that called in, guest 11, excellent reminder about Dr. Wells' statement yesterday. I thought that was a great point that she made about those images. They go out worldwide. All of the Tyler Perry films and black people being in the dress and Big Mama's House and all of the buffoonery, that stuff goes out worldwide. Billions of people are seeing those images, and for a lot of folks, they haven't had contact with black people. That becomes their only representation for black people. And you talk about damage. I mean, I just don't think we have a global perspective on the damage that sort of racist, white supremacist entertainment does. The person that dialed in from California with a hand up, your line should be open. If you had a question, caller in California, your line should be open.
Greetings. Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Greetings,
oh,
Gus, and,
909. Wait, hang on one sec. 909. Someone, they wrote in, they said that your volume tends to be low sometimes, so if you could speak up really loud, that would be helpful. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I had sent you a couple of emails that I had seen a while back. Are you familiar with Hines Ward?
Is he asking you or is he asking me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Was that for the guest or for me?
Oh, either. Well, yeah. I guess I was kind of asking you, Gus. I thought because I sent you the email, I thought maybe you had already heard of the story of Hines Ward, and I was just asking if you had.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, to your guest, too. He can answer, I guess, afterwards.
I got the emails. I did not know about Hines Ward having a Korean mother, but I watched the video. I actually downloaded it. I downloaded it and have it as a sound clip so I can share with listeners to further add evidence about the anti-blackness in that area of the world. But I would be ringing my cowbell. I did know Hines Ward married a white person. But yeah, I thought that was great information. And I think that's related to his abuse growing up and what he experienced in him getting a white person. But yeah, that's my response. Sintah, are you familiar with Hines Ward, the football player for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I've heard of him, but I'm not too familiar with him.
Yeah, his dad is black and his mom is Korean, and he was talking.
Oh yeah. Okay, no.
Yeah, but he was talking about in the piece, and if Gus is he might play it or whatever, but he was saying that his mom was getting spit on, and he was never accepted it, or she was never accepted. She was really getting a lot of abuse in Korea and whatnot. And yeah, it was just, you know, it was just funny. He went back to Korea and they gave him like his big, you know, parade and everything like that, and he apologized to the Korean people for not wanting to admit that he was Korean. It was really interesting, and yeah, maybe Gus will play it next time. But you know, when I was reading your, you know, your account of what happened to you, trying to get on the bus and saying that you had been spit on, I had just remembered that from back in the days when I had seen that story about Hines Ward, and I had sent Gus another email where one of the cities that you were talking about that you had worked in, they had a commercial, and in the commercial they said that they are the Christopher Columbus of Korea, that they were trying to expand like Christopher Columbus, and I thought that was really interesting. I had sent it to the host, and you know, with that, I don't know if white people were in charge of that advertising or whatnot, but just to say that you're the Christopher Columbus, that just seemed really white identified and very racist, very, you know, white identified, and you know, comparing yourself to an extreme racist Christopher Columbus, and you know, I just found that interesting. And I guess that wasn't a question. I guess my question would be to you is that, have you looked on YouTube? There's a lot of, well, not a lot, but there's a couple of black people that are in Korea that post videos on YouTube. Have you seen any of those?
I've seen a few, but I not pertaining to any racial issues. Just like, oh, my students are this and my students are that, and it's sort of boring. Really,
well, there's a black female that works in Korea, and she asked a question, and I guess I'll ask you. She said, "Is it racism or is it just ignorance?" And she showed a clip of a Korean female singing group, and they perform in blackface. And you seen it? One of the members of the group, she has black face and she has rollers in her hair. It's crazy. But so what do you think it is? Do you think it's just ignorance, or what do you think?
Well, that's a very good question. Is it ignorance or racism? So I can just sort of state that racism is ignorant. So it's the same thing to me. You there?
Yes, sir. I'm still here. I don't
because
know
if
about
you're,
that.
Well, I can explain. Let me explain. So if someone is ignorant of something, they have no knowledge of something. And so people don't acknowledge black people as sort of anything. So we don't have, our history is just slaves, and we stink, and we deserve to be spit on. So do we deserve to be spit on? Do we have a weak history? Are we slaves? Does our history tell us that we're slaves? So if they don't understand our history, then they are ignorant. And this is where this ignorance becomes racism. Do you agree with me on that, at least? Or you can go ahead and, if you want, like, explain.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I'm just the difference between racism and ignorance. I think that there's a distinct difference between the two. That's kind of what I was getting at. Maybe the non-white people, the Koreans, are ignorant, but the racists are not. From what I understand about racism. So, maybe we can't call. I don't think it's the same thing. I think maybe the Koreans are ignorant, yes, but racist, not so much.
No, they're racist. They're very racist. I wouldn't say I've met. There are some that you can say ignorant, which is sort of a watered down version of racism. which is the lack of understanding, which hasn't sort of transcended into what we would call racism. But I believe that it starts from ignorance and then it becomes racist.
Can we get a definition for ignorant? That would be helpful for me. Like, what do we mean when we say ignorant?
You want like the dictionary version?
No, just whomever, use the term to identify someone as ignorant. Just what do you mean? Just so I'll know. When we say that someone is ignorant, not racist, we mean...
Well, if you're asking it, consider knowledge or
oh, you're breaking up a little bit. I didn't hear the sentence that you just said when you started your response. You were breaking up. So if you want to try that again.
I find it as a lack of knowledge or a lack of information. Because ignorant, you're ignoring things. So you don't understand things when you ignore things. So if I was to ignore my friend sitting next to me, he was telling me something, he would have no idea what I was talking about. So he lacks the knowledge that I try to express to him. So ignorant.
Okay. That's helpful. That's helpful. So I guess I would ask then, do we think, I'm not even asking for white people because I don't think that white people are ignoring anything when they go out to mistreat people that they say are not white. I've seen no evidence that white people are missing information, that's the problem with regards to why they practice white supremacy. With the non-white people, specifically Koreans, do you think the problem is that they are missing information about black people or ignoring information about black people? That's why they mistreat black people, darker people?
I think that Koreans have they misunderstand themselves, a lack of knowledge about themselves, or they don't want to understand themselves because their history is similar to ours. Not as much because we've been through it for a long time, but they should be able to empathize more with our situation rather than maybe a Caucasian person. But since there's that nouveau riche mentality, that new money, that they feel like, okay, we're not a part of that sort of slave system, or we're not slaves anymore because we have this money, and so we want to be like the developed countries who have this money. So then they, sort of act in accordance to what that image is. So they should be able to empathize, and so with the man, the other caller, I don't know if he's still on or if he's still listening, but I think that could be defined as ignorance, maybe, rather than racism. Because they don't understand who they are themselves, so they're actually going about business the same way that we have been doing for a long time.
Can I say one more thing, Gus?
Oh, feel free. Your line is open.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to be vague at all. The reason why I said that is because, Gus, the host, he gives a definition of racism and what it is. And, I've come to the conclusion that, there's only one race, which is the white race. So, white people are the only ones that can be racist. That's kind of where, that's where I was, that's just that's why I asked you those questions. Just was wondering if you heard the definition of race, of racist from the host, and did you agree with it? And do you agree that only white people can be racist?
I think that it stems from white people, but I think that even we can be racist against ourselves based upon the current paradigm, the current racial paradigm, the stratification between black and white. And I somewhat agree with that, sure. But just because it stems from, it originates from the Caucasian. You see what I mean?
I have a question of Mr. Khalid.
Sure.
You use the word imperialism. In your definition or your understanding, is it equivalent or the same as saying racism, white supremacy? When you say America is, an imperialistic country, or America is a racist, white supremacist country, or as well as European countries?
Yes, I say that I equate them all together. Because it's sort of authority over people. They have their own sort of empire, and we don't have an empire because it's not there. We once upon a time we did, but we don't have one. Imperialism comes from the word empire and over and.
Sintah, could you speak up a little bit? Your volume is going a little low. Just project your voice.
It sounds like it's breaking up.
I apologize. I'm sorry. I have moved inside because I have a battery problem. My battery was going to die, so I can't be as loud as I want to be. But I'm sorry about that. But I'll speak up. So yes, I equate the term imperialism, supremacy. They're all the same because it indicates authority. It denotes authority. It denotes an empire, a sort of authority over different people who are sort of identified as the lesser. And according to the current structure now, we are the lesser. And the current structure is, when I say sort of white imperialism.
And also, sir, are you familiar with Dr. Frances Cress-Welsing? She has a book called The ISIS Papers, and she's put on this program.
Yeah, but I'm not well read on her.
Okay. She also has some of her lectures as well as, I guess, interviews, like with Tony Brown, Dr. Shockley. It's on YouTube as well.
Yeah, Gus mentioned her briefly. Excuse me?
And also, another writer is Mr. Fuller, Millie Fuller Jr., and he's in the archives on this program, The Cows, as well as if you go on YouTube and punch in his name, you'll also find some of his beliefs on racism, white supremacy.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Thank you for that information.
Excellent material. I would highly recommend both of them, and they were both on the program yesterday. In fact, Mr. Fuller and Dr. Welsing. Unless 909 and the mail at guest 11, and if you two had any other questions, I was going to go ahead and play that clip because I thought it was just really. It just further solidified what we've been talking about, the anti-blackness, just to see if, I guess, Sintah, if he had any thoughts, unless you all have any other questions you wanted to get in.
I have no questions.
Okay. 909?
I had asked a question. Did you ever give him the definition of racism?
Oh, yes, sir. At the beginning of the program, we did the definition, and he said he thought it was accurate.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's it. I was just wondering.
Okay. Yeah, if you all want to hang tight, I will go ahead and play that clip that 909 mentioned about Hines Ward, because I thought it's exactly what we've been talking about, just further solidifying the anti-blackness. And then, Sintah, if you want to share your thoughts, if this sounds like the sort of thing that could still be going on. And so, in fact, your friend, the black male who was born in South Africa, who married a Korean female, he might be looking at this down the road. I'll go ahead and play the clip, and if guest 11 909, if y'all want to mute your lines, I'll leave your lines open. just that we can keep the background noise down. This is Hines Ward, Super Bowl MVP, non-white male. He has a black male father and a Korean female mother. Very interesting piece talking about his experience being born in the area of the world known as South Korea. Context of White Supremacy.
The Pittsburgh Steelers are Super Bowl champions.
After he was named the MVP of Super Bowl 40, Hines Ward spoke of how he had always been an underdog.
Never in my wildest imagination would a kid out of Forest Park, Georgia, not too tall, not too fast, win the Super Bowl MVP. Speechless.
But when Ward came into this world, he was more than an underdog. He was an outcast. Ward was born in 1976 in Seoul, South Korea, to a Korean mother and an African-American father serving in the U.S. Army. In Korea, children of mixed ethnicity have long been pariahs, shunned by mainstream society. As a result, biracial Koreans are usually poorer and less well-educated than pure-blooded Koreans. The women who bear these children are also subjected to harsh intolerance.
When my mom walked out in Korea, people would call her names, spit on her. I mean, that's how bad, in Korea it is. My mom always described me, they treat people like dogs over there.
It's still a very pure-blooded culture, which goes way back in their history before the Korean War.
Janet Mincer runs an organization dedicated to alleviating the impact of discrimination in Korea and around the world.
It goes back to Confucian times, and then also the result of invasions of Japan, when there were mixed-blooded children, which they resented at the time. If you're not pure-blooded Korean, you face discrimination.
Before Ward turned 2 years old, his parents relocated to Georgia, in large part because his mother wanted to escape the prejudices of Korea.
She knew the lifestyle that I would have would be harder in Korea rather than coming to the States and giving me an opportunity to have a better life. I could be one of those kids over there right now, not given opportunities, and I owe her everything for that.
Not long after they came to the U.S., Ward's parents divorced, and Hines eventually fell out of touch with his father. Throughout his childhood, Ward found himself an outsider.
Going to school, black kids teased me because I was Korean, so it was hard to try to fit in with black kids because they always made fun of my Korean side. Well, trying to hang out with the Korean kids, they always teased me because I was black, Trying to hang out with white kids, they teased me because I was black and Korean.
The taunts and the knowledge that some of his mother's family had shunned both her and him instilled in Ward a resentment of Korea and his own Korean identity.
It was something I was ashamed of for a long time. I really didn't care for it. I really despised it. It was like, well, the hell with Korean people. They didn't accept me, they didn't accept my mom. I had that anger for the longest time.
Reverse to Ward. Can he break the tackle? On the dive! Wow!
For an outcast in two worlds, the playing fields were a natural escape. During Ward's 4 years at Georgia and his 11 seasons with the Steelers, performance mattered more than ethnicity. In Super Bowl 40, he struck a blow against those who had mistreated him and his mother.
Touchdown, Pittsburgh! Hines Ward!
Before the 2005 season, Ward and his mother, who was unavailable to be interviewed for this story, made a plan to return to Seoul in the following offseason. Despite mixed feelings and trepidations, they hoped the trip would reconnect them with their roots. After Ward's MVP performance in Super Bowl 40 in February 2006, the trip took on a different dimension, as the nation that had once ostracized them now celebrated them.
I felt like a king. It was crazy. We get off the airplane and they got military guards and the media people, and you know, everywhere we went, it was, you know, like I got media coverage here and stuff, but I mean, you remember the Tiger Woods when all the crowd was walking behind him? Well, multiply that times 10. That's how it was when we went. It was kind of crazy. Everywhere we went, it was an entourage of people.
Ward and his mother were treated like royalty, showered with gifts, lodged in presidential suites, praised in print and on TV.
There were elderly Korean people applauding me and my mom. For the elderly people in Korea to come out and applaud and say how much they really respect my mom and so proud of it. That was a good feeling for me deep down inside.
But Ward's trip to the nation of his birth was more than a homecoming. It was also a mission. While visiting with a group of biracial children like him, he announced that he would create a foundation dedicated to the advancement of Koreans of mixed ethnicity.
People can accept me for who I am, being Korean, rather than what I am as a biracial athlete. Then I know there's hope for the biracial kids here in Korea.
I'm going to stop it there. It's about a 10-minute clip. You can watch the rest of it on YouTube. But I wanted to ask Sintah, I mean, they said Hines Ward, he was born in South Korea in 1976. Any reason to believe that things would be different now if you are a so-called Korean female and you have a child with a black male? Any reason to think it would be any different now in terms of how that child would be treated or how the Korean female would be treated?
I don't see there being any difference in treatment. But if you become a success story like Hines Ward, they're going to appreciate you more. And then they'll say, oh, yeah, you're Korean because you have money and you're famous. And if you represent us as a Korean person, then that's fine because you give us a good image. So actually, I've even, now that I'm familiar with this, I remember hearing about this, and I've heard a lot of Koreans speak very highly of Hines Ward.
While calling you an ape and the other black male nigger teacher all day long.
Right. But if I became a football player and I told everybody that I was teaching in Korea for 3 years, they might say, you know, give me a pat on the back or something.
Wow. Wow. Context of white supremacy. I'm a little surprised that he apologized. Like, I'm certainly not about promoting conflict amongst non-white people, but I don't know if I would have an apology. If my mom was spat on and I was mistreated, she was mistreated, I don't know if I would have too many apologies for saying, I don't feel like these people have treated me very well. Like,
yeah, I would have to swallow a lot of pride there. But yeah, at the end he says something like, "Oh yeah, I'm proud to be a Korean and I'm accepted as a Korean," but he never said anything about being black. At the end, so it was more like he yearned to embrace his Korean side, because he didn't say just Koreans were like picking on him and spitting on his mother. He didn't fit in. He said that black people didn't let him fit into the group as well. So he wasn't trying to fit in with the dirty Negro side of him. He was trying to fit in with his Korean side, which I find kind of interesting.
Very.
Just throwing that out there.
Very, especially. Oops. I think I hit the incorrect one. There we go. Got to put that in because Hines Ward did marry a white female. Definitely got to make sure we get that in, because I think that's important. I think I told 909. I think it's super relevant. His mistreatment and all the abuse that he faced. A lot of us look for that soothing lotion, the escapism. I'll get a. Who can validate me? No one could validate me like a white woman.
Right.
Wow. We're closing in at the end of the program. I wanted to mention, because I know we were talking before the program, you said you You are making an effort. You have 3 weeks left before you exit South Korea. You said you are making an effort to talk with your students about racism. And I just wanted, if you could share like some of the things that you've been trying to teach your students about racism and if they've been receptive.
Yeah, I try to teach them, at least my university students, I try to teach them, we just have discussions pretty much. So I want them to let out all their feelings because I want to understand where their hatred comes from or their misunderstanding about different races come from. So that therefore I can sort of diagnose diagnose the problem within their system to actually sort of find a solution or try to like give them information to build upon to actually help them realize about their own selves. Like I had this article over the weekend. I did a 4-hour thing with some students, and we were trying to talk about this article, but about the article that where I was discriminated against, and a lot of times they're ashamed to talk about it because they're pretty bright students, and they don't want to feel they sort of shamed about the way that I was treated because they sort of respect me in a sense as a teacher. And I give them some good information that they can use and that they'll be able to use and throughout the world when they leave university or when they travel to a different country or when they meet black people, for that matter. So we talk about economics and, we read out The Economist, and that's pretty much some sort of, imperialist garbage, It's always talking about Europe and it's always talking about Asia, and it doesn't mention anything about Africa except how poor it is. And so I have to, sort of reinforce the fact that not all African countries are begging the white person for food and aid, So just little tidbits. What I try to do whatever I can do. There's not much I can really do.
Wow. I also wanted to make sure that we got the number in that folks can dial. I think you had 2 different numbers. Were you able to find those?
Yeah. Let me give you those. Yeah, I hope you have me back on the show. I'm in Ethiopia.
Absolutely. I think that would be great to network. I know you said you were trying to work with the African Union once you touch down on the continent. So, yes, we would definitely love the update.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'm pulling up a number for the Human Rights Organization. They speak English, so I don't know too much about the Chung wants to be all. Here we go. All right. I'll give you all the information. So I'm going to copy, paste this. I can tell your lips.
Oh, okay. I thought you, okay. Groovy, yeah, if you send it to me, I will share it with listeners. Okay, he's giving it to me right now. Okay. The numbers, I'll read them out here. All right. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, it's in the different, I'm trying to find, all right, got it. Okay. First number we have, the country code is 8221259700. And this is which facility does this number take you to, Sintah?
This is the Human Rights Organization of Korea.
Okay.
It's called, actually, the exact name is National Human Rights Commission of Korea.
Okay. I'll give out that number again for folks. The country code is 822-125-9700. They also have a complaints hotline. I'll give that number as well. The complaints hotline is 1331 or 02-1331. And they have email as well. So if you are not able to make phone calls at a rate that is acceptable to South Korea, you can shoot them an email as well. Their email address is nhrc@humanrights.go.kr. I'll say that one more time. nhrc@humanrights.go.kr. You can shoot them an email. This is a human rights organization in South Korea. Just let them know about what happened to Sintah. Again, I think all of us, we should really be aggressively opposed to any forms of anti-blackness. That is a major component of white supremacy, to get everyone, black people included, to degrade and be hostile towards black people. We should be totally intolerant of this. In 2011, shoot them an email, give them a phone call, and just let them know that something should be done about this. We got another number as well. This is Changwon City Hall, correct?
Yeah.
Changwon City Hall. You can call them as well. I'll give out their number. Their number, country code, is 82. The number 055-225-4291. I'll give out the number one more time. 82-055-225-4291, and that is for Changwon City Hall. So please give them a call. It shouldn't take more than 5 minutes. You can do an email, you can do a phone call, just to let them know anti-blackness in 2011. I mean, really, we should be trying to do much better than that. Let me double check the folks that were on the line. Guest 11909, did you all have any questions? I know 909, you mailed the sound clip. Did you have anything you wanted to get in before we wrap up with the program?
I just wanted to thank Mr. Khalid for sharing his experiences in South Korea, so people can be aware that, it's, like you said, worldwide. It's all over the place.
Right. You're welcome. Thanks for calling.
We as people
and
need
the soundbite.
to speak up when things happen to us, that's for sure, instead of suppressing it.
I agree.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
909, do you have anything, or are you good?
Yeah. I know your guest was saying that he was talking to his students. You were trying to find out if it was something more than just the television media that they have, the so-called hatred they have for blacks. Do you think it's just the television media, or do you think it's something deeper?
Well, of course, it's something deeper. Like I said, it has something to do with, the constant flood or influx of white imperialist information, I suppose. They don't understand it as imperialist messages. They just understand it as these are the people who control the world, and we should, sort of be more like them. And it also comes from neo-Confucianism, because there's sort of collectivist mentality. So they have this, like I said before, they have the sort of we identity rather than the I identity. So they have a hard time understanding logic, because it's sort of not conducive to their collective identity.
Yeah, that was a great answer. Thank you for coming on the program. And
Sure.
Yeah, keep up the good work.
So we try, and you too.
Context of White Supremacy. Thoroughly enjoyed it. As I said, I feel like I said that a lot, where we've met people from all over the world, but as always, unfortunate circumstances of victimization and white supremacy. Hopefully we can correct that, and we can dialogue and chat, and it will not be about us being mistreated because we are black under the system of white supremacy. As I said, I definitely want to follow up and get the update when you relocate to the area of the world known as Ethiopia. We definitely would love to hear what you're working on over there, and definitely we will be in touch. Appreciate it so much. I'm going to make a phone call just to let my voice be known and speak out against the anti-blackness. I hope listeners will make a phone call or send an email on your behalf as well. Definitely.
As do I. I appreciate it.
For sure.
Can I say one last thing? Just
sure,
to make
sure.
Clear to those who are actually listening in South Korea, if they are. This is not based on any sort of like reverse hatred or reverse racism. This is a reaction to a bad situation, and that's purely what it is. And so I think that if anybody has experienced the same things that I have experienced here, it's okay to feel this way because you're reacting to you're reacting to hatred, and this is the way that we should react. We shouldn't be happy about it. We shouldn't be passive about it. It's not a positive thing. So I just wanted to, make that clear that I'm not preaching any sort of hatred or anything like that. I'm reacting to a situation.
365 days of racism. I think that's hey, that requires a response, and I would say a strong response. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we will definitely be in touch. If there's anything we can do to assist in letting folks know about what happened, let us know, and we definitely look forward to having you back on the program once you have relocated to the continent.
Great. I look forward to it too. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Context of White Supremacy, our guest joining us live from South Korea, Mr. Sintah Khalid. My apologies for butchering the name. I will, hopefully next time I'll do a better job in pronouncing it, getting it correct, your name, sir.
You make it sound great.
Thank you for your patience. Thank you so much. We will.
No problem.
We'll definitely be in touch. Our guest again, Mr. Mr. Sintah Khalid. We will hear more from him down the road, and we will have our next broadcast this Wednesday. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your, I guess for you, the rest of your Tuesday afternoon.
All right. Thank you, and you have a good night.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Take care.
Good afternoon. Context of White Supremacy. Wow. 365 days of racism. Man, being called nigger teacher and all that other stuff. Man, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and I'll make sure I get our news report in. I don't want to slack on our duties. And then if anyone has any final thoughts to share before we wrap up, I will check the phone lines as well. Context of White Supremacy. We'll be right back with news on the other side of the commercial break.
RacismDaily.com, your number one source for global news reports on race, racism, and overt actions of white supremacy. From Asia to the Americas, to Europe, to Australia, to Africa, racism is not a thing of the past, it is our current reality. Be informed, be globally informed. You should be the first to know. RacismDaily.com, RacismDaily.com, RacismDaily.com.
Is racism hurting you? On issues of race, are you unable to speak, think, and act with clarity and confidence? Are you tired of laughing when nothing is funny, smiling when you are not happy, agreeing when you really disagree? At counterracism.com, you can learn specific strategies and techniques to counter the behaviors of the people who practice racism in all areas of activity, using words correctly, following counter-racist logic, even counter-racist science projects designed to reveal what racism is, how it works, and how to counter it. The open source code writing format allows you to pick and choose from a variety of counter-racist suggestions so you can produce the code that works for you. Stop by counterracism.com today and help replace racism with justice.
That's counter-racism.com.
Do you need a one-stop shop for all of your multimedia needs? Triumphant Multimedia is a skilled team of professionals with a passion for great marketing and chic design. Our specialties include consulting, brand development, copywriting, and creative graphic design that's second to none. We also offer photography, photo retouching, videography, and video editing. At Triumphant Multimedia, our goal is to provide highly effective creative solutions built to suit any individual need or budget. Give us a call at 678-732-8067 or check us out online at trimultimedia.com.
Hi everybody, welcome. This is Justice with the C.O.W.S radio program. If you want to learn about, understand, and counter racism, white supremacy, be sure not to miss a C.O.W.S episode. We keep them jammed-packed with constructive information to sharpen your use of words to help eliminate the system of racism, white supremacy, ASAP. Also, for more information on racism, white supremacy, and to invest in my counter-racist efforts, please visit my blog, justdojusticetoday.blogspot.com.
You're just saying just buckets and buckets of words.
Yo, this is Wade, one half of the Black Twins, and I want y'all to check something out. Our latest project, Double Consciousness, the Mixed Message. This will be dropping October 2nd, 2011, featuring various audio from Umar Abdullah Johnson and Dr. Kembaum, just to name a few. You can download this at www.gagmusicroom.bandcamp.com and at stlouismixtapes.com. That's STLmixtapes.com. Replace white supremacy with justice now.
This mixtape is only for victims of racism and white supremacy.
Context of White Supremacy, Gus T Renegade. Another program, non-white people, black people specifically, worldwide. Anti-blackness, white supremacy. We should have Frank Wilderson. He should be back on the program later this month. I was hoping to have him on during the blackout, but he had a full August, but he said September he'd be ready to roll to come back and visit again. That anti-blackness, definitely a major problem worldwide, and black people are saturated with this too, for sure. I make sure I get that in. White people have done such a good job. Black people have picked up that anti-blackness just as much as everyone else. Our news reports, I'm actually going to do two because I saw a lot of just tons of stuff going on in the news. Someone mailed this to me. I don't recall who it was exactly, but thank you for the sharing. This is on AOLtv.com. This is the title of the report is Price is Right Model Files Sexual Harassment Lawsuit Against Producers. This is from September 18th, 2011. The model, of course, black female. A former Price is Right model is suing the show's producers on charges of sexual harassment, false imprisonment, and wrongful termination. Lanisha Cole alleges producers Michael G. Richards and Adam Sandler, not the actors, created a hostile work environment starting in December 2009 after Richards stopped talking to Cole directly. In the suit filed in Los Angeles Superior Court, Cole claims Richards created personal policies that were intended to deprive her of work, something the other models on the show were not forced to do. Cole's suit also says Sandler entered a female dressing room without permission while Cole was naked from the waist up and only wearing a very sheer thong bikini underwear bottom, and berated her for failing to wear a microphone, something she says was not her fault. All the women in the dressing room, including Miss Cole, were frozen in shock until Sandler finished his tirade and stormed out of the women's dressing room, the suit says. According to the LA Times, the Price is Right stage manager apologized to Cole but did not report the incident. Months following the dressing room invasion, Cole said she had to miss a day of work for a family commitment and was told she would not work for that entire week. After she returned, she was told she was holding the show hostage, in quotes. This case is about senior-level men in the entertainment industry exploiting power and control over women by bullying and harassing female talent. Solomon Greason, Cole's attorney, told the LA Times. Miss Cole did nothing to provoke Richards and Sandler. Once the harassment began, she was powerless to stop it. Price host Drew Carey is not involved in the lawsuit. Cole's lawsuit is just the latest in a long line of suits associated with the hit game show. In 1994, former model Diane Parkinson sued then-host Bob Barker for sexual harassment after a 3-year affair they had while she worked on the show. Parkinson dropped her lawsuit, claiming stress damaged her health. Then, in 1995, Holly Hallstrom filed a suit against Barker for wrongful termination and later settled in 2005. Barker filed a countersuit and later dropped it, but not before firing Cheryl Paris and Sharon Freeing. The two production assistants each sued Barker for wrongful termination, sexual harassment, and sexual discrimination. Both women received financial settlements. That's the end of that report. And the title again, Price is Right model files sexual harassment lawsuit against producers. I want to make sure I point out this is another example of white people, their gutter sex. I've said before, white people are sexual predators. Dominic Strauss-Kahn, Thomas Jefferson, as many of them as you need, Strom Thurmond. I just wanted to point out at the bottom of the page, it has, I guess this is a photograph from a movie, perhaps, where they've got a white man and he's got vampire teeth and he's got blood running all down his shirt. I pointed out we're just in an environment that is saturated with demonic, satanic images, just white people and their foolishness, their trifling, demonic antics worldwide. It's just saturating. We've just gotten accustomed to it, like the anti-blackness, just looking at this stuff all the time and not even paying attention to it. I said we had two reports I wanted to share. The other report, this is from whitewatch.com, whitewatch.info, whitewatch.info. This report, Olympic champion gymnast attacked black cabbie, refused to pay fare, and threatened to kill officers who arrested him. The young, restless, and racist. Olympic gymnastics champion Paul Hamm has been accused of hitting and kicking a taxi driver, damaging a cab window, and refusing to pay a $23 fare. As Hamm, 28, handcuffed in a police cruiser after the incident in suburban Columbus, he can be heard in a video asking officers to let him go and saying, "I don't understand. I'm going to kill you guys," in quotes. He can also be heard telling an Upper Arlington police officer he had about 8 drinks, WBNS TV in Columbus reports. Hamm, who is working as an assistant coach at Ohio State while he trains for the London Olympics, is charged with assault and 2 other misdemeanors. He was charged on Saturday and has been released on bond, awaiting a September 15th arraignment, according to online court records. His agent, Cheryl Shade, declined comment Wednesday, the Associated Press reports. Ham has been charged with assault, criminal damage, and for not paying for a service. USA Gymnastics President Steve Penny said, "We have read about the unfortunate situation involving Paul Ham in media reports, and we are certainly concerned for Paul. USA Gymnastics will wait for more information before commenting further." Ohio State said officials were aware of the arrest and would determine how to handle the matter after it is dealt with in court. Ham, who grew up in Wisconsin, is the only man to win the Olympic and world all-around titles. The three-time Olympic medalist missed the Beijing Games with an injury, then got a job in Chicago as a finance trader. But he quit his job last summer and announced a comeback in the hopes of making the U.S. team for London next year. Ham is still recuperating from shoulder surgery in January, but is expected to return to competition next February in what would be a boost for the U.S. men's medal hopes. Ham returned to Ohio State, where he and a twin brother, Morgan, earned their degrees and trained before the Beijing Olympics. Earlier this summer as an assistant to new coach Rustam Sharapov. WBNS says a police report shows Ham had fallen asleep as he was being driven home in the taxi. The taxi driver, Abdinasir Almi, said that Ham had unintentionally locked the cab door and was trying to get out through the window. He said Ham swore at him and elbowed him in the mouth as he tried to help him open the window. This is reported September 8th, 2010. This is on whitewatch.info. The title of it again, Olympic champion gymnast attacked black cabbie, refused to pay fare, and threatened to kill officers who arrested him. Trifling racists. And this is an Olympian. It's supposed to be the best of the best. Olympic champion. We will be back on Wednesday, September 14th. We'll have Mr. Henry. He's been on the program before. He's an investor in the United Kingdom. You can check out the Facebook page for the cows. He has a very interesting post talking about helping a white person. I said that before. No white friends, no sex with white people. We definitely do not want to be helping white people. At any rate, he helped this old white woman. He let her use his phone, and she was trying to call another family member, some other racist, no doubt. She left a message. So some time has passed. Now he's not with this white person anymore. The other white person that was called, she returns the phone call. So she calls back. Mr. Henry answers the phone, and she gets an attitude and is really rude, hangs up in his face. And he's just like, man, that's what I get for helping white people. What was I thinking in the first place? Really interesting thread, and we're just going to continue the dialogue about what I said. Black people, we really need to break a lot of our training. We should not be doing the John Coffey for white people. I don't care how small it is. Don't let them use your phone. Don't help them up the steps. Don't lend them a nickel, a shilling, none of the above. No help for white people. I think Sintah on the program was saying today, there's tons of black people in the world who need help. We should be focused on them first, not white people. I could not agree more. Tune into the program. I know some of the listeners were upset when we talked about this before. You'll just have to be angry again. And as I say before, if you don't think the program is constructive, don't tune in. There's tons of other things we could be doing with our time. But for those who do think it's constructive, it'll be this Wednesday afternoon, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Pacific, on helping white folks. This will be the UK edition. Looking forward to hearing more ideas on this subject. And I hope more people see the logic in what I'm saying. It's not about hating white people. It's just about this is war. And we do have people who are actively in opposition to us. We should act accordingly. Very simple. If we were playing football, I think people would understand. You would not be running across the field to make sure that the other team has correct pads and sharing Gatorade and, let me help you. You just wouldn't do that. You would understand. They're on the other side. This is the opposition. We have an opponent. I'm not helping them. Very simple. At any rate, you can help if you think the C.O.W.S is constructive. Invest, always constructive. The link should be in the description for the program. And you can support the wish list at Amazon.com. It's under Gus T Renegade, constructive books on white supremacy. Other items I think are constructive. Please invest if you think the effort at the C.O.W.S is helpful towards eliminating white supremacy immediately. And also share the links. That is super helpful, getting the word out for other non-white people to hear the programs if you think the material would be constructive. I'll double check with the folks on the line if they have anything they'd like to share before we wrap up. 909 and the male guest 11, if you two had anything you wanted to get in, your lines should be open.
Yes, Gus, one thing I would like to ask you to do is could you find out if Dr. Welsing has a list of psychiatrists and psychologists that actually support her work, and see if they're like a national list of these individuals? Are you there, Gus?
Inadvertently tapped my mute button.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure I'm understanding the request correctly, just to see if Dr. Welsing is aware if there is a list of black psychiatrists who are aware of and or endorse her work in any way, and if she has such a list, could she make that available? Is that accurate?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Is it just if they are aware of her work or if they are aware of white supremacy?
More, I guess, support with her philosophy about racism, white supremacy. Meaning, if a black person goes and sees a psychiatrist, and they say, well, I'm going to go find me a black psychiatrist. Well, just because they're black doesn't mean that they're conscious of racism, white supremacy. So if there's other people like Dr. Welsing scattered across the country who are also psychiatrists or psychologists, if there was a list for people who are dealing with racism and having problems with it, that list would be helpful. Versus I'm just going to go see a shrink, and a shrink is going to give you medicine and say, well, you shouldn't worry about racism that much. I'm not sure what I can help you. So that's what I'm asking.
Okay.
I've had this conversation with other people, and they were, one guy I know, he has other things that he's bothered with, but racism was one of them. And he said his doctor was black, but he said, when there's a doctor. I asked him about it. Well, the doctor's like, no, not really. He's not, at that level of understanding racism. And this is, the person his job has referred him to go see. So.
That I think would be constructive. I'll ask and see if she knows of such a list, if she has such a list, or if she knows any other black psychiatrists who endorse her work and might be helpful for folks out there who are looking for a psychiatrist to speak with about white supremacy. I'll see if she can help on that.
All right, thank you.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Gus and the other caller and listeners, I wanted to say, helping white people. This past weekend, a black male that I know, I've been knowing for about 10 years. He was regular black male trying to understand the system. Was asked by a white male to buy him some liquor. Before the black male even thought about it, he said yes. Went in the liquor store, bought the liquor, came out, gave it to white male, and the police pulls up and arrests him. And so now this black male is, facing a felony charge or, charges because he just said yes, trying to help or whatever. But he wasn't thinking this white male, is an enemy. So, I mean, this person was not a bad person as far as I can see. He just was confused. And the answer is no. So helping white people, man, this is something that happened this past weekend, and it really just upset me, the fact that he was so close to understanding the system but kind of resisted, but just wasn't really thinking on an everyday basis that this is my enemy, these are my enemies, these are my enemies, that little bit of slip right there, trying to help a white person get something to drink, saying that he didn't have his ID or whatever the case may be, got arrested for that. So the answer is no. You have to somehow, if you're listening to this program, and I know my volume has been low, and I apologize for that, but if you can hear me, is just put some notes up, have a board or something that you have in your house with stickies or pens or something that says, however you want to say it, the answer is no. As far as white people are concerned, the answer is no, because they just set him up. He just got set up for something so small, but now look, he's facing charges. Just saying yes so fast. And I think we say yes. This, for instance, somebody asks you something, yes. White person, it's got to be yes. And I think that's our mentality. White person comes up to us, you want this plan at the gym or the health gym or whatever, something totally ridiculous, spending all kind of money for a trainer or something that you're not going to use. You just say yes. White person giving me some attention, yes. And he's locked up and he's facing charges. All this money that he's going to have to pay now, and time spent, just time, unconstructive time it's like slavery. You're giving all of this, like a blood sucker. They sucking your blood. They got all your time now. Now you got to go to meetings and whatnot. So, if get something to where you can say the answer is no. That you can remind yourself every day that white people come to you, start asking you stuff, no. You want to take on extra duties at your employment? No, not really. No. I mean, just things that we don't even think about. We say yes, so much, and it's not going to get you nowhere. If a white person asks you something, man, or help or anything, man, the answer is no.
We're going up against 400 years of social breeding. We're like a dog being taught to sit. We're like a dog being taught to lay or roll over, and that's the hardest part, going against what we've been taught to do.
John Coffey. John Coffey.
Condition and train. Condition response. That's right. White man asks you a question, give him the proper answer with a smile.
I know it's.
I was just going to say, that's deep, man. It's training.
It's detrimental to us. We keep doing it.
That's terrible. That's terrible. What happened to the black male that you mentioned? I mean, that's what I mean. I mean, I recall, like, as I said, there were folks who had been listening to the program. They were upset. Like, they posted comments on the page like, I'm going to continue to help white people. I know we have been trained, as everyone has touched on, The Help. I mean, it's the reason The Help is #1 at the box office. It's the reason they make these films. It's the reason The Green Mile, Academy Award nominated. It's the reason they keep making all these films. Hattie McDaniel. White people know what they're doing. And that's the same reason why we're doing the program on Wednesday. And I mean, when I say don't help white people, I mean don't help white people do anything. I mean, I made an error. This was a while ago, but I was in the grocery store minding my own business, and another elderly white woman, that's what happened to the UK guy, any of them. I wouldn't care if they're 180. I wouldn't care if it's an infant. Do not help white people do anything. It was an elderly white woman, and she said, "Oh, could you help me get the loaf of bread?" Because she couldn't reach it. She was pretty short, decrepit, and all that. And I wasn't thinking, and I grabbed it, and then as soon as I grabbed it, it's like, oh, I felt that revulsion, like, oh, man, I'm not supposed to be helping white people. This is terrible. Ignore white people. For folks out there, if you have a problem, I know that's a part of our conditioning. If you have trouble saying no to white people, planned ignoring. White people teach that as a technique to deal with people, as a codified response. Planned ignoring. If you're out, I'm talking about if you're just out on your own time. I'm not talking about if you're on the job. If you're out on your own time, unless that white person has a badge and a gun, there is no need for you to respond at all. Keep walking. There's no need for you to even say no. Just keep walking. White people do that to me all the time. Hey, bro. Hey, whatever they're saying. Oh, you look like Bob. Don't even acknowledge their existence. I don't even give white people eye contact when they get into that stuff a lot of times. Just keep walking. You don't exist. Keep it moving, racist. Get in the... I know it's hard. It will feel like you are sinning. We talked about the black male in the UK. We talked about that. It'll feel like you're committing a sin when you start to do this. That's how much brain trashing has been dumped on us. I'm telling you, it's the best thing to do. Because white people, like what happened with the black male you mentioned, white people are predators. They sit out and look to set up black people like that. I've told people, but even when I was confused about racism, I had a little bit of understanding of when you go out and white people ask for things like that. Oh, hey, bro, could you get us a couple brews? We'll give you a couple dollars. Or, hey, bro, do you know somewhere where we could get weed? If you even point in the direction, oh, you could buy something over there, you can go to jail. That is a felony. They can send you up on conspiracy charges. Do not help white people. Don't even acknowledge them unless you're on the job or that white person has a gun. Even think. You don't even have to say no. Planned ignoring. Keep walking. Keep your mouth closed. Don't even give them eye contact. These folks are predators, trifling savages. Leave them alone to the best of your ability.
Absolutely. Believe me, I do it. I plan. I ignore them. They always asking, do I have this? Do I have that? I don't even turn around. And I've had a couple of occasions where they yelling, hey. I don't turn around. And I just act like I'm deaf. Maybe I'm deaf. That's what I be thinking in my head. Maybe I'm deaf, deaf or whatever. Yeah, I ignore them. Like they don't exist. I just, man, like you said, eye contact. I don't want to look at them. And man, what you just said was exactly correct because that's exactly what I do. I ignore them to the best of my ability and to the highest point of my ability. And people that, if I'm with other black people, they look at me like I'm strange, like, wow, like how can you do that? I'm like, they do not exist. That's the enemy. If I could destroy them, I would destroy them. Since I can't destroy them, it's like they don't exist. And that's exactly what I do.
I think your flashcards or you said post them on the refrigerator. I think all those things would definitely help. And it's kind of like when Gus had the program with the 10 things to do if you get stopped by the police. They used to just hand out flyers, but then they decided, no, we need to actually have videos. And then for people at home to actually practice saying, excuse me, officer, I know you're just doing your job, but I have nothing to say. Or, no, you cannot check my vehicle. And that's what we need to do because, and I mentioned to Henry, Mike Henry, the same thing when he posted about helping the old lady to the hospital, walking to the hospital. I had an incident that same week, I believe, helping white people, helping a white neighbor by dialing 911 because I saw someone climbing over their fence. And when I was doing it, I was thinking to myself, or after I'd done it, I was like, if the police find these people, I've just, put 2 people in greater confinement. 2 more black people in greater confinement. Then I had to deal with the police, and then the police is harassing me, asking me my height, my weight, and I don't believe the officer thought I was the suspect. It was just randomly asking questions, and asked my name, which is no big deal. They already know my address because I'm the one that dialed. And then they asked me for, what's your height, what's your weight, and your Social Security. I just stopped, and I was like, no, I don't see where it's relevant to, you finding this person. Well, I'm just trying to fill out the paperwork. And I said, I'm not going to give that information. And the lady said, okay, no problem. But it just, that's it. I put myself in that situation by making that phone call. 400 years of breeding.
It sounds real callous.
Yeah.
Is war.
That's been about 2 weeks now.
You'll remember next time. That's good. You'll remember next time.
I will.
Yep.
As long as you're not coming through my door, I'm not going to have a problem.
For anyone listening, it might sound harsh. Again, remember, this is war. And I even talked to a black male, and they said, well, maybe if we help white people, maybe they will help us or what. Man, no. If there was a trophy for helping white people, we would have like 8 billion of them. The planet would be fit. Black people would have won so many of those, man. The planet would be stuffed with trophies for helping white people if that was really true. As much as we do for white people, forget that. We need to try going the total opposite direction. And I mean zero help. If a child came up, I need a quarter to catch the bus, you will be walking. Zero help. In fact, I'm not even answering your question. I definitely don't talk to white children. They are some of the most dangerous little savage urchins on the planet. Definitely leave them alone. But nothing. You can't have a lighter if you need a cigarette. You can't have a nickel. You can't get directions for the bus. Nothing.
I agree. Besides, we look, 1619 to 1865. Didn't we help them enough? It didn't seem to benefit us at all. Jim Crow kicked in right after slavery ended, so it's a waste of time. They're not appreciative. Right away at work, next thing you know, we got to downsize. Not working.
Yeah, I hope that point is heated. Put the things up on your refrigerator, or if you have hopefully you have one of those boards.
Dry eraser boards.
Yeah, those boards are very constructive. Those boards, and I hope everybody has them. To remind themselves, because we're working on autopilot, and the autopilot is a racist white supremacy. the computer or whatever, the autopilot, man, is a racist. So you do not want to be on autopilot, because this thing that happened, it was just like you said, heartbreaking, and it's very sad and all that good stuff. And Gus, I wanted to say something else about what you said about you said demonic. You said you used the term demonic, and I know Dr. Welsing, she said keep it simple, but I wanted to say that I'm reading this book called The Coming of the Third Reich, and it's a big, deep book. But in the book, it talks about how Adolf Hitler was a Satanist, and that he was taking mescaline. And the person that introduced him to mescaline was he's from the United States, and transport to Germany. And Hitler, before he did one of his big offenses where he struck, he was after this item. It was called the Spear of Destiny, it was the so-called spear that pierced Christ, so-called, Christ into his side. He was after this particular item, and when he finally got it, and it's a whole hit, he goes, the book is not about that. It's about like the coming of the Third Reich, like how Hitler got into power, and after he was in power, like what led to his power. It's a very good book, and he was a Satanist, man. He was I don't know if we really understand that they into Satanist and demonic type of things. I don't know everything about it, but just reading that and then hearing what you said about the Satan, the demonic, and seeing all these vampires and the blood everywhere on the cartoons and stuff like that, we don't really understand what that is, but they believe in, I don't know, man, I can't really explain it, but when Gus said it's Satanist and demonic, believe me, that's not something to be taken lightly. I don't know how deep you would get into it. I don't know if Dr. Wilson would recommend that. Get this, but I think when you come across things like that, it should click something in your head that might be something that they gain power from or something. Like because who knew that Hitler was a daggone Satanist and that he was taking mescaline to talk to demons and whatnot? I never heard that before in my life. That aspect of I never heard that before, man. And reading it was, I just thought like, wow, like maybe they into some type just demonic. That's a component. Like they're demonic. Is some man. I don't really know all about it, but I just wanted to bring that. I just wanted to kind of let people know, man. When we say demonic, like Gus just used the term demonic, it's not something that just doesn't mean anything. They are into that stuff, man. They are into it. That's with the blood and the vampires and the zombies and the tearing your heart out and stuff. And not even with the movies. They, I was telling Gus, and I don't know if I think I mentioned it on the show, where they would have autopsy parties, where the big thing in the Dutch, wherever the Dutch are at, they would take their dates to autopsy parties. And have you guys ever seen those things where they got the skeletons with the muscle and stuff, like real bodies? They have exhibits where you have real bodies displayed, and they pump the bodies with some type of plastic to keep all of the muscle structure, and they just take the skin off, so you just have skinless skeletons of real people on display. So, yes, man, demonic, man. It's just interesting. I just think it's interesting.
I agree. You need like that movie They Live. They had sunglasses and they could see who their enemy was. These non-humans. But we walk amongst them and they act. They do, like you said, demonic things, evil things, oppressive things. And apparently the glasses we're wearing are just making them like, oh, it's not that bad. Oh, they killed another black. That's not that bad. Catholic Church molests more kids. Not that bad.
It's in front of us all the time.
To the oppression.
Totally. It's in front of us all the time. I mean, I would think, I mean, with Adolf Hitler and what is reported and the millions of people that he killed, it would be, I mean, his picture should be in the dictionary next to demonic. I mean, that should be obvious. Like, that shouldn't even be, I mean, that's just how warped I think things are, that, it's, wow, Hitler's a Satanist? Really? Like, I mean.
He was actually a Catholic. He was raised a Catholic. And if you Google up Hitler and the Catholic Church and go into images, they'll show you Catholic cardinals, priests, and I don't know if there's any actual photographs of the original Pope at that time, but they're doing the C.O.W.S. So, you know, it wasn't like the Catholic Church was like, oh, this is a horrible thing you're doing, or, you know, because, you know, they were anti-Jewish too. But, and I push that all the time. So, you know, people, and I know a couple of black people who are Catholic. I said, well, Hitler was a Catholic. You know, our founding fathers were Christians. Why are you still calling yourself a Christian? It makes no sense. We're numb to the oppression. It doesn't faze us anymore. It doesn't matter how many people get abused by the police or by the society, this planet. It doesn't matter. As your guest tonight said, you know, the Koreans, you know, basically want to be white, and for the most part, we, as victims of racism here in this, you know, country, so-called country, we still want it too. Was it Mr. Cambone that said, what you said, we're artificial white people or imitation white people? Everything we do is trying to emulate what white people do. You know, with the nice cars and nice homes, big money. So it's kind of hard to hate your enemy if you want to be your enemy. It's hard to do anything to end your enemy's power if you want to be there one day.
Get ready
kind of like
to.
when Enron and all these organizations were, you know, Wall Street were ripping off, you know, thousands, if not millions of people. Well, I would have thought those white people have been very upset that they lost all that money. But they can't get upset with those people because they want to be there one day. They want to be these multimillionaires. So that's why they weren't a large outcry from the public who had invested in these companies and then got ripped off by these companies. Well, I can't get mad. I don't want them going to prison because I want to be a multimillionaire, if not billionaire, one day. And that's us, black people. I can't get mad at white people because I want to be as rich and wealthy as they are one day.
I'm going to get ready to wrap things up in the next 5 minutes. As I said, we will be back helping white people broadcast this Wednesday, September 14th. We'll have Mr. Henry. He'll be here to talk more about his specific incident. And he had thoughts in general about the helping, because I think all of us, it really goes against the grain of our conditioning to not help white people. But I'm looking forward to having that conversation again. You can check out the previous broadcast where we discussed all this. It was back in May. If you check the archives, May of this year, on helping white folks. That's the title of the episode. It was in May. I read Miss Zanelle. She had a short report that she wrote, her thoughts on helping white people. She, too, is staunchly opposed to helping white people in any way that you can. Just by being a victim of white supremacy, you do help them maintain their system, but do as much as you possibly can to decrease the amount of explicit and direct help that we give that, you know, it's just unnecessary. There should just not be any voluntary assistance of white people. And as for the demonic aspect, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. I think once you become less confused, it will drastically change your perception of white people, and it'll be much easier to see just the immense amount of incorrect and fiendish things that they do on a regular basis. Even in Danielle McGuire's book, she talks about how a white woman went and got this black male, and they snuck off, and she had sexual intercourse with him in a cemetery. Tons of little anecdotes like that, things that, you know, you don't even really pay that much attention to until I think you start to have a better understanding of white supremacy, and it starts to de-whitenize. When you begin to detox and lose some of that white identification, you start to see white people a little differently. And I think all of us, we kind of need to get that detox from white identification as soon as possible. We have about 3 minutes left. Anything you all want to slip in really quick in 3 minutes, feel free.
Possibility for a topic for a show. Should people who are more aware of our surroundings, should we be involved with politics? If we're trying to end the system of racism and white supremacy, I guess supporting the lesser of two evils, is that going to help us? Not saying vote for the more evil of the two parties, but I mean, should we be involved? And I've been voting since I was 18 years old, and I'm 45 now. And I campaigned back in 2008 from September till Election Day. And again, I'm wondering, is it even constructive to do that anymore? Because, again, if it's uncomfortable, you're more likely to respond to what's going on. If you're semi-comfortable, then you're less likely to, respond. Well, it's not that bad, because I'm comparing to what it could have been if the Republicans or whatever party was in power. So you're less likely to do anything. So I'm not sure if that's a topic for a program or not, but something I've been thinking about.
I think that sounds like, we can do, that sounds constructive for a topic. That sounds constructive for a topic.
I know it contradicts what Dr. Welsing said yesterday, but again, it's something that's been running through my mind for a while. If we really want the system to end, then we really can't participate in the system, and that's one of a million things we need to stop participating in.
909, did you have anything you wanted to share? I know Dr. Welsing on a previous program, she laid out pretty solidly saying that she thinks black people should support President Obama. So that would, at least to me, suggest that she's not completely in opposition to voting. In fact, she said that yesterday, that so many black people died.
Right. Exactly. She said it yesterday. That's what.
Oh, wait a minute. Hang on. Yeah, I'm trying to stop people from interrupting me, because I've noted people have a habit of interrupting me on the program, and I tend to be pretty good about not interrupting. My bad. She did say that yesterday about black people. They suffered and died to get that right to vote. So, I don't think Dr. Welsing would tell black people to not participate in voting and what have you. I don't think she would say that. I think she'd say the exact opposite.
And you're correct. She did say that yesterday. She said that we should continue to vote. And again, my question is, if we're trying to end the system of racism, white supremacy, by staying comfortable with one party, lesser of two evils, that's for the most part going to prevent us to actually do what needs to be done to correct the problem. And maybe if things got uncomfortable, if it all of a sudden slapped in the face, they got less refined, and we're back in 1940 era, those who are still asleep may wake up and say, I can't do this. I got to do something about it.
I would be interested in following the logic on the voting thing. I would be interested in that. I have my views on it and whatnot, but I can't say that after hearing Dr. Welsing that I don't know. After hearing her, I've been thinking about it a lot. So I would be interested in kind of fleshing that out. And white people worship death, sex in the cemetery, and all that, and all these vampire and zombie stuff, and they worship death. And the word, how I will define worship is working. They work to cause death. Worship is work. They work to produce the result of death. So we need to keep that in mind. Like death is a part of their arousal, their enjoyment, their entertainment. These people are not to be, man. They got to go, man. You have it in your mind to this. They need to be, man. They got to go. They have to go. Helping white people, man. It's just, please, no. And I guess.
I'm in agreement. I just found it amusing, but I'm in total agreement. Sorry.
No, I'm just laughing. Like, man, if we only really took that seriously, man. Like, you how you gonna help somebody that's gonna kill you? Please, man. You have to do the small things. And small things lead to big things. You do the small things with the boards and things like that, the reminders, and they could lead to big things, like replacing this wicked, demonic, racist system with justice, man.
I agree.
Couldn't agree more. Just a sample, I'll give you a quick one. I think white people would wig out if they ever woke up and they started noting a significant number of black people not helping them do things. Man, I know they would have meetings immediately. My car broke down. I went and asked this nigga to help me change my tire, and he wouldn't even do it. Like, what is going on? Major step towards replacing this system, just getting rid of that white identification. Major step. In fact, victims, they told me, if you want a great example to end with, where we can do better, we can make changes, and we can make, I'm telling you, it's not even that hard. It's just little things. Put the stickies up, message board, whatever you need to do in terms of reminders. I'll do my part. We'll have a program where we mention it consistently. No helping white people. You can make it your screensaver. You can put it on your desktop, anywhere you need a little reminder. But there were victims. They went to the supermarket. They're in the checkout line. You got a white man. He's in one of the little motorized shopping carts, right? And he drops his credit card. And the white racist cashier, she looks at the non-white child in the line behind him. She says, "Oh, can you get that?" And he looked at him. He was like, "Oh, you're not talking to me." She asks us again, and he, nope, not getting it. So then she switches and she goes to his non-white parent. "Hey, could you get the card for the white man?" And she looks, "I'm on the phone. Leave me alone." 2 strikes. No non-white people willing to help this white man, even in the motorized cart. She's mad, furious. She stomps around, picks it up herself, helps the white man out, and then just mean mugs the non-white people the whole time they're in the line. I can't believe you didn't help that white man. A+. It's not that difficult. You don't have to be rude about it. You don't have to be discourteous. I'm not saying you have to curse at any of the white people. Just nope. And planned ignoring. You don't have to say anything, but do whatever you can to rewire so that we are not going out and helping these white people. Just that mentality needs to change immediately. Unless you want that John Coffey roll, unless you want that Hattie McDaniel roll, let's work on getting some rewiring. That's the campaign for 2011. No helping white people. I was actually snickering and thinking that should be the brand new "Just Say No" to helping white people. Like, we just do not get down with that at all. It's too many black people that need help. White people, you can find another white person to help you out. With that, next program on helping white folks, the UK edition. Looking forward to having Mr. Henry back on the program. If you disagree, that's fine. You can call in or choose not to listen to the program. That'll work too. Context of White Supremacy. Thank you to the folks who sent me those reports. 909, thank you for the Hines Ward video. Very constructive. Y'all can check that out on YouTube if you want to see the whole 10-minute spiel. We heard about half of it. We'll be back on September 14th, Wednesday, September 14th. The program time is 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. Looking forward to a constructive broadcast. Invest if you think the program is constructive, and we'll be back soon. Context of White Supremacy, signing out.